This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
It's extraordinary, it's amazing, it is totally unexpected, but it is entirely 100% true. The hyena den is active. My name is Jamie, and this morning Craig is on camera with me, and we're live from Djuma Private Game Reserve, which is in the Greater Kruger National Park area of South Africa. My eyes are shining. It's first thing in the morning. I could not be more excited because, hello, morning Munchkin, what's up? You want to hear the introduction too? Well, little one, if you would like to send through your questions, you can do that on #SafariLive on Twitter, alternatively in the comments section of YouTube. But since you don't have thumbs, that might be quite difficult. But for our rest of our viewers, it should be relatively simple to do. If you have a vague grasp of a technological know-how. If not, there's always a stick that you can find. Right, now it's not just myself out here. Oli is out this morning. He has returned from leave as bright and full of joy as ever and as fully entertaining as he is. Let's go across to him. He's found a ground hornbill.
Good morning. Sorry about the silence treatment. I was listening to the calls. These are called southern ground hornbills, the biggest hornbills we find here in Djuma. Let's listen to this for a few seconds. This is amazing. This is beautiful. It's my first time hearing the southern ground hornbills calling. I think it's a mating pair because I've heard that there are two of them. That is why they are calling like this. I think it's a male that is calling. Or this is a female because it has the blue patch underneath its beak, and the male selects that. Listen to that. And the other one is calling at the back. I think that's a male. You can see the voices coming from this red thing we can see over there. What a beautiful morning to start a drive. Yes, they are both calling when this one finishes and the other one at the back finishes, but we can't see that one because it's a little bit far from where we're at right now. This is amazing. Yes, I'm also loving the calls. I never thought they have this big and bold voice. This beak we can see right now, it's the beak that is used to crush the tortoise when they are feeding. You can see the shell of a tortoise, it's so hard, but this beak can do the job easily. I really think this is a mating call. I never had them calling for territorial reasons, but I think definitely this one is a mating call. My name is Oli, and welcome to SafariLive. I am coming to you live in the Kruger. What is happening here now? It's live. These are the southern ground hornbills, the biggest hornbills we can find in the Kruger National Park. For any questions and comments, you can catch us on #SafariLive on Twitter and YouTube chat stream. Let's listen to this and see what is happening. Oh, I'm with Trishale, my colleague here. How are you? Are you good? She's also enjoying the calls of these beautiful birds. These birds are one of the birds that are critically endangered because of poaching, because of cultural beliefs, and yes, of course, because of how they live. Because for them to raise a chick, it takes some years to raise a chick. So it takes about 8 years, and that's a lot for both parents to take care of the chick. What they do is they really want to teach their chick how to survive here in the bush. That's why they have to spend a lot of time teaching the chick, and they only raise one chick. That's why we don't have a lot of these beautiful birds. You can see it's a turkey-sized blackbird. This call is beautiful. I can spend the whole day listening to these calls because they are so unique. And from far, you can't think this call comes from this bird. You can think maybe it's another big animal or big predator or prey. This call really is bold. And look how the wings do when they call. It means it takes a lot of energy to produce such a big drumming call. That's pruning. It's cleaning itself from whatever that bothers it. This is what birds normally do during their free time to prune themselves. Sometimes they can go to the ants and rub themselves there so that they can clean their feathers. And sometimes they do this to pluck off their feathers when their feathers, I can say, they're dead. What a nice view there. On top of a dry tree. This tree is called a knobthorn. None of your business. I'm not sure whether you call your question, but I think I've heard it, how far the call can travel. From my experience, I've learned that their call can travel for about 5 kilometers, and they are far from the camp now, and we've heard them from the camp calling. Since yesterday, I arrived yesterday, I've heard them calling from the camp. I never thought they are this far. That's how their call can travel. It means it takes a lot of energy, I think. Just imagine my call, my sound, or when I can try to scream, I can't even be heard for 5 kilometers. This is so wonderful to hear such calls from a bird. Look at that, it's basking on the sunlight now because the sun is coming up. It's about 17 degrees Celsius. That's 62 degrees Fahrenheit. You can hear the birds calling from the other angles. We have the starlings, but you can get the clear view of them because they are in the trees there. Oh, she's going down. I think he spotted something there because that's how they do when foraging. They walk on the ground to search for insects, to search for lizards. I've heard that they even feed on snakes. Tortoises are also included on their diet. Oh, she's right at the back of that tree. That's an African weeping wattle. This is amazing to see such species. I'm so glad to see these southern ground hornbills. My first time to hear them calling. I hope they'll be calling for more, or there'll be action on the ground that's happening. I can see she's in a hunting mode. She's female, as you can saw. We saw the blue color on its lower beak. Something is happening here. And we are still live here in the Kruger National Park. Oh, here are the other birds. I've told you about the starlings. They are all over the place, also calling. There's a lot happening right now here in Djuma this morning. Yes, Deja Vu, thanks for a question. Have I been practicing any bird calls? Yes, I've been practicing bird calls, 3 of them. But I really love, oh, here he goes. I really love the call of a red-chested cuckoo, which goes like this. Beat me fro, like. And of course, a Dedrick's cuckoo, which it goes like this. Not bad, hey? Deja vu. Those are the calls I've been practicing. The bird left, but I think it's not far from here. I will ask Malume James, which is Uncle James in my language, to have a good look of the bird. Maybe he will spot it. He's been doing a very great job these days, sharpening his cam-off skills. Let me move forward and see whether I will find a good view of the bird. I have to approach very slowly and carefully so that I won't bother the bird. Yes, I've been practicing. Malume James has been not easy to me because he wants to sharpen me to be this great guide. I enjoy his company. I also enjoy Jamie's company because I've been with Jamie. Where's that bird? Paula wants to know what's my favorite bird. Oh, that's a difficult question because I love every bird, but to see these southern ground hornbills today calling, I think I'm falling in love with them. But my favorite bird was a orange-breasted bushwrack. I'll show you in the book. If some of you don't know an orange-breasted bushwrack, it has a nice call, which I will try now. Yes, that's the orange-breasted bushwrack. I'm driving around to get a nice view of the bird because it flew from this side. Hopefully I'll see the bird and and have a chat about it. I would love to see them both. Oh, the purchase starling is calling there. That's it. That call is an. I can tell he's been bought by something. Oh, let's have a look there. It's a slender mongoose. Oh, that's a slender mongoose, and the purchase starling is calling. Oh, I'm sure he doesn't like its presence, because these small guys, which are called mongoose, can kill starling's chicks. Oh, there he goes. He's foraging now to get a morning snack. Oh, Malume James, here, he's gone. Thank you, Malume James, for your cam-up skills. They're good. So while I'm trying to get a nice view with James for the southern ground hornbills, I will go to Jamie with the hyenas in the hyena den. Hopefully they are there, because I've been there. No luck.
They are here. They are here indeed. And well done to Wooly for giving his best impression of multiple different bird calls. Now, Pretty's just got up. She's moved away a little bit. But as these cubs grow older, they are getting... what would it be? Braver? Braver, yes. They're getting braver. I was trying to think if it was more brave or braver, but it's definitely braver. Brent's given me a complex about that. Degrees of comparison. Look at the little spot patterns coming through. Are we adorable? Yes, we are. They've come right up to the vehicle to investigate us. Pretty's cubs popped themselves right under my foot. Oh, not that brave. My head's in the way. Move, Jamie. No one wants to see the back of your head when they can look at a hyena cub. I'm actually really happy to see Pretty as well. It's been an extended period of time where I haven't seen her. I was not worried exactly, it's just I was really hoping to catch up with her. Look at those bright eyes. There's a lot going on in that mind. Yes, your mom was here last night. Here's Pretty's old... I keep calling her the oldest cub. She's not the oldest cub. She's just the bigger cub. But she looks just like her mum. She is so... I know this sounds ridiculous, but she really is pretty. She's a pretty hyena. Phenomenally attractive little face. And lovely spot patterns that are going to be... almost vanish in the next few months. Oh... You're going to get a smack from your more dominant clan mate. So for newer viewers, even though the cub over there is smaller than the one that's bothering it, it is actually more dominant, which means that even without its mother here, it could still retaliate and turn around and snap at the slightly larger cub. So the fact that it's a male does not in any way mean that it doesn't retain that dominance. Oh, look at you all backlit. A picture of beauty. And to think everyone was so worried about your bald patch on your face. I wasn't. Just one of those babies that was going to develop its fur later. Brendan, you want to know if the mother of the hyena cubs were to die, would the other hyenas take care of it? Most likely not. Unfortunately, no. Oh, here comes Pretty. She's now right in the front of the vehicle. I'm going to stay with my head down so that you can see. Unfortunately not. Hyenas don't really work that way. Most of the females within a clan are actually not related to each other. You do, of course, have sisters and daughters and mothers, but a lot of the time they're not related to each other, which means that they're not really invested in the offspring of others. So chances are, if a female hyena dies, its cubs will die as well, unless they're around about the year-old mark, at which point there's a possibility that they could survive. Now, there are very very rare cases of adoption in spotted hyena. I have never seen it myself. I have only ever heard about it or read about it, and it happens under very exceptional circumstances. Oh, feed me, Mommy. Feed me. I wasn't done eating. Nice to see that Pretty's quite full as well. She's not having any of it, though. She's backwards, forwards, backwards, forwards. The anxious look of a mother hyena at the den. Whee! I'm going exploring, but only a little way before I get scared and I have to come running back. Whee! I'm going to go explore with you. Mom's here. Now I feel safe. RLC, it is a wonderful thing about the animals of this particular area. So RLC is wondering if the mothers don't have an issue with the cubs being so close to the car. They don't, because the adults are not afraid of us either. And in fact, what you'll find is that when the adults were cubs, they actually did something very similar when they were little. So they also used to go and explore the car. I find it fascinating, but it's one of those things about hyenas. When they're little like this, they do this, and as they get older, they somehow develop some sort of, not fear, but a wariness of vehicles. They very seldom come right up to the car and sniff in the same way that the cubs do, with that same level of curiosity. I don't know if it's just because we're no longer interesting to them, but all I can tell you is that the females do not consider us a threat at all. So they're quite comfortable with the cubs coming up to us, and if that doesn't tell you how much or how comfortable they are with us, well, then nothing will. Now, if I start, I'm in a sort of a difficult position here. If I start the vehicle, the cubs are going to get a fright because they're very far from the den now, and then they're going to run back and they probably won't come back out again. So I don't want to start the car. We're going to have to try and just settle for a moment, and let's just see if they come back into view, because I'm pretty sure that is what will happen if I do try to move. They're so cute. Was it Jocelyn or Justin? I didn't 100% hear that. You want to know Jocelyn, not Justin, definitely not Justin, Jocelyn. Jocelyn wants to know why hyena cubs are called cubs and not puppies. It's a question that is debated. Some people say that since hyenas are not cats or dogs, it shouldn't actually matter because there we go. Hello. And we're back out again. Because, you know, by calling them cubs, you're more closely associating them with cats. You could call them pups. It doesn't really matter. It's just a linguistic thing. But because hyenas are more closely related, if you go back far enough to cats than they are to dogs, it becomes hyena cubs, or at least most people call them hyena cubs and not pups. That is the correct way to refer to them. That's our ones. And remember that hyenas are not dogs. They are not even closely related to dogs. They are something completely, completely different. Oh, are we done? Are we done with our morning's exploring? That sounds like a kid's TV show. Morning's Explorings. I love this little one. Shouldn't play favorites, and I don't. I love them all, but I really am quite attached to this little one. I thought it was dead. I'm playing favorites. Okay, fine, I'm playing favorites. But I thought it was dead for the longest time. And when it did re-emerge, that much smaller than its sibling. Most of you know me. I have a soft spot for the underdog. So the fact that this one went through such a tough time, to the point that its growth was slower than its siblings, I can't help but just love it. It's still got slightly wobbly back legs. It took a long time, bye-bye, it's bedtime, to recover from whatever had struck it down. We don't know. some sort of illness. I don't know what happened. Oh, Pretty's cub also going to bed. Whoopsie. I overshot the mark a little bit there. In you go. Oh, you lot are getting too big for that hole. Don't know how to tell you this, but very shortly, I hope we don't come one day and find a hyena cub with its back legs sticking out, waving around in the air. That would be terrible. Oh, Liz in Wisconsin says that this is her favorite den site. It's definitely up there. It's in my top 2 den sites, and I know why. It is such a perfect den. It's so wide and open. Oh, here comes Plonk. Plonk is coming back to join the rest of the party. I also like this den site. It's also one where I have some beautiful memories associated with it. I really, really enjoy this den because it's the very first active hyena den that I got to visit when I started working on Djuma. I also really like the Mvubu Road den, just purely aesthetically. I think it's beautiful there. You get the green of the tambuti trees. Are we done? No. Look how brave you're being. You're being even braver than Pretty's cubs. It's all in the attitude. Whee! Run, run, run. As fast as you can. Just so you know, I'm not sitting here without an adult present. Pretty is here. She's within view of the cubs. She's still looking back and forward as she can't quite decide what she wants to do. So I'm not in any way breaking our rule. She is still around. We do have a rule that if the adults move off, then we do too. We don't sit out with the cubs. It just makes them I think it makes them feel safe. And they tend to treat us as if we were another hyena, almost. They come out when we come to visit. And I've noticed that a lot recently because I've been paying a lot of visits to the den without the mothers here. And every time I stop the car to check that they're still around, they come out. Oh, hello. Oh, moving slowly, moving slowly, moving slowly. Not slowly enough. We're not quite there yet, where we are completely oblivious to the movement of the vehicle, or in the vehicle. I'm going to sit and enjoy this for as long as Pretty allows me to, because it is quite magical. Let's go to Oli, who is also enjoying a magical morning.
Welcome back. My plan today was to look for the lions. They were calling the whole night yesterday. So I stopped here because I'm trying to listen to their calls. Maybe they will call because they were heard right here at Kalako Pen. We are on the Kalako Pen, but I can't hear anything. Only the birds and also those southern ground hornbills. We might be lucky seeing these lions because I've heard that they are mating, and they've started mating on the perfect weather. This weather is so chilled. We had a lot of rain. It will be awesome to see lions mating. The land or the reserve is getting green, and this shows that we going to have a lot of activity because there will be antelopes around like buffaloes. We hardly see them, but because of this chlorophyll, the green pigment we see right here from the grasses and from the trees, it means there's a lot of vegetation for the antelopes to feed on. So let me drive forward because there's nothing around Kalako Pen. Hopefully I'll see the lions mating. I've only seen the lions mating in the Mara. I was with James and Bongay. It was so awesome to see such an activity from the lions. Oh, Duncan, what a nice question. Duncan wants to know what did I do on my leave. Oh, Duncan, it's December time. It's festive season. I was with my family. I've enjoyed my grandmother's company. She cooked a lot of pap. Pap is called, it's porridge, and pap is an African's name here in South Africa. I ate a lot of meat. So I'm driving around, hopefully to see something interesting, maybe a bird, maybe those lions mating, elephants, impalas. While I'm driving around and searching for these lions patiently, let's go to Jamie with the hyenas.
Hyenas are dashing about like absolute little hooligans. Pretty's come back. She is now leaving again. Pretty, what are we doing? We're going to make up our mind? Are you coming or going? She can't quite decide whether or not she's going to stay or she's going to go. Okay, she stopped to look back at them. Kirst, if you want to do it, you'd best go soon. Let's do it quickly. We're just going to bring a larger audience on board so that they can experience this as well. Welcome, welcome to one of the cutest sights in the African wilderness. Spotted hyenas on an adventure, or actually one of their very first adventures, away from their den site, which of course is where they hide to keep safe and snug away from other predators. But welcome to this. We are live from Djuma Private Game Reserve, which is in the Greater Kruger National Park area of South Africa. Now, because this there's 3 of them. Oh, run, 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 run. We're all coming this way. Run, run, run. Oh, high speed hyenas. Because this is live, you can send through your comments and questions. Here comes the littlest one. Zooming. Quick, quick, quick. Here we go. Because this is live, you can send through any of your comments and questions. We will notice that I'm sitting with the hyena cubs. They are not alone. There is a female here that is the mother of the 2 oldest ones, so the ones with the spots, and she is wandering about, sniffing the air, I think potentially looking to reunite with some of her clan members. Now I have to move quite slowly because there's a hyena cub right here. Hello. Oh, we're cute. No, you're not allowed to chew my shoelace. How cute. You can't... Did you get it right? This is what hyena cubs do. These are 100% wild hyenas. But because hyenas are so intelligent, when they're growing up, they develop an insatiable curiosity. And that means coming to say hello to us while we're in the vehicle. Now, I'm not worried about them getting too comfortable with our presence or with the vehicle, because it's something that they grow out of. So all of the adult hyenas here grew up in exactly the same way, and none of them will approach the vehicle in this way, except for one male who seems very curious about coming up to have a sniff of our feet. But other than that, they all seem to grow out of it. Here we go. We found a chew toy. Growing up a hyena cub is just full of lessons. Jessica, you say this is just so precious. It is. It is entirely too precious. My heart is a little bit too large for my chest. I've actually watched these cubs grow up from very small. I'm just making sure that Mom is still around. I can still see her. Okay. Once Mom leaves, then we have to leave as well, so that the hyena cubs don't feel as though they're allowed to stay out past their bedtime. Oh, so much learning to do. So much chewing to do. Now, every little hyena cub has some very important lessons to learn. One is where it sits in the clan hierarchy, a position that it's inherited from its mom. So if the mother is high-ranked, it will be a high-ranked cub, as is the case with the littlest one. If mom is mid-ranked, then it will inherit her status, and low-ranked, and so on. So hyena cubs inherit the status from their mothers, and as most of you will know, hyena clans ruled by one dominant female. Now in this case, the little one, the little cub, that's his mum. His mum's name is Corky, and she is the matriarch of this tiny little clan here in the Sabi Sand. I say tiny. There's only 5 adult females, one that is and one other female that's approaching adulthood that we see regularly, and an assortment of males. But that's quite small for a hyena clan. All right. I think that Pretty, the mother of the cubs, has actually moved off quite a little bit further than I am comfortable with. I don't want to in any way interfere with the way of things out here. So what that means for us is that as joyful as it has been spending time with you, it's time for us to say goodbye so that I can leave and go off and search for other things. If you do want to see what else we find this morning, remember you can Google SafariLive and you can watch the entire live safari and send us questions. From myself, Craig, and, well, they don't really care. They've got other things to do, but I suppose in theory, from the cubs of the Juma clan, farewell, and we'll see you soon. Okay, it's time for us to say goodbye to the hyenas while we move off. Let's go back across to Xoli, who is doing birds with a great enthusiasm this morning.
Welcome back. Birds are on my favorite this morning. Look what we have right now, and something is happening here. We have a gymnogene, which is also called an African harrier hawk, and drongus, and some starling there. These small birds are dive bombing at this bird of prey because it was on a tree there, on its right. So I think these starlings have a nest there. So that's why they are trying to avoid the gymnogene to kill or feed on whatever is in the nest. There was a southern ground hornbill earlier on. It chased off the gymnogene on the tree there because I think it saw an opportunity to feed. They are also nesting in a tree hole, but I don't think the southern ground hornbills have a nest here. They just saw an opportunity to chase off the gymnogene so that they will feed. And the gymnogene is not going anywhere. I think there's a nest around here. And it's spotted. Oh, here it goes. Going back to the very same spot. I think there's a nest there. Maybe chicks or maybe eggs. And what happens is it hunts using its legs. It will put its legs in a nest. Then it will search for anything that's inside there using its legs. But now it's been disturbed. This is a beautiful bird. Look at the feathers on its head. You can see it's frustrated and it's been seen. Oh, Rosemary, what a nice question. No, they don't always look like this. It's because of these birds that are bothering this gymnogene. You can see that it's hunting. There's a nest there. It's frustrated and it's been seen. That's why it's trying to make itself big so that it will scare off these birds. Look at the drongo there. It's frustrated. Oh, here it goes. Oh, I think there's nothing there in the nest. Oh, they're following. They're trying to chase him off far from the nest. Oh, this is beautiful. Oh, this is beautiful. Bad luck for the chimney this morning. It will try its luck to find any meal for this morning. As we saw now, it failed to get any meal. But I think it had something there. Hopefully, he got a very fat chick there, because the parents are trying by all means to feed the chicks so that they will grow as much as possible. Let's look what's on the tree there. I'm sharpening my birding skills this morning. The kingfishers are gone. We had a woodland kingfisher on a tree, but it's gone. Sorry about that. No luck for this kingfisher this morning. Let's drive forward and see what else we can find. I haven't seen a kingfisher yet, but I've had kingfisher calling this morning. It goes like chip, chirr. What a nice call there. Chip, chirr. Woodlands kingfishers are intra-African migrants. They travel within African borders. And I've had one in the Mara calling. I think in the Mara they're always there. They are not migrants there. They are there all year round. Not like here, they come during summer months, around October, November, and they will leave after that. While I'm driving around looking for the lions, let's go to Tristan in the Mara. I'm sure the mother is greener.
Well, good luck. Hopefully you will find the lion somewhere, and apologies from our side that we were for our tardy start this morning. Unfortunately, we had a few things that we had to sort out, and so we were a little bit later than normal. But it is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful start to the day in the Masai Mara. This rain is kind of broken away, and we've got a sunrise, which is very nice, and it was a spectacular sunrise at that. The sky was this bright orange for most of the morning, and now it's just the kind of sun that's just passed over and into the clouds, and there's still that kind of yellow that's remaining. But my name is Tristan, and on camera I've got Archie this morning, and it is a very warm welcome, like I say, from East Africa. Hopefully it will be a good morning for us. We're going to go bumble about. We're going to go try to see what we can find. It's still very, very wet. We got a lot of rain yesterday morning, all the way through until about lunchtime, and then a little bit of rain again in the afternoon, and then it kind of settled down for the night, and we didn't have too much. So it's still going to be a little bit wet, but we're going to go try and scratch around. We'll head slowly southwards, and maybe we'll get lucky and be able to try and pick up on where Kenya was. Other than that, I'm not really sure. I think it's a clean slate, really. Not many people were out yesterday, given the conditions that they were around, and so I didn't hear too many reports, but hopefully we'll get something at some point. It's a beautiful morning, though, I will tell you that. The only problem is we've still got these annoying little insects that are buzzing about, so hopefully they'll disappear as that sun gets a little bit warmer and we carry on kind of driving. But it's still a very pleasant morning. The temperature is perfect. Like I say, it's a little kind of brief view of the sun, which always makes one's spirits lift slightly, and so hopefully it shall be a good morning. Did hear lions roaring while we were kind of busy with a few things at camp this morning. It sounded like they were roaring from sort of down to our right hand side at the moment. Tricky though, when you're up on the escarpment, often when they're roaring down below, to get an exact position is not that easy. It kind of seems like it's just coming from somewhere down here, but I would imagine it sounded like sort of to the right of where I am now, and so we'll have a little look around. Maybe the Olololos are somewhere around, and kind of spending some time. Yesterday, they actually, funny enough, we kind of went out on our drive, and only when we got back to camp did the guys tell us that when we were leaving, as we left, that the lions walked out right where we had been. So Archie and I had walked past the lions in the pitch black and had absolutely no idea that they were even there, which is both scary and I suppose pretty cool at the same time that they didn't eat us. Cool that they didn't eat us, scary that they could have, and we didn't even know about it. So it was kind of nice that they were around. Apparently there were 6 of them that was up that side. So, you know, we saw 10 the other day, and it seems as though that's kind of split as 10 and 6. And so we'll have to just try to see where the other 10 are. Maybe they're also milling about somewhere at the moment. But they've seemed to, since the rain has arrived, kind of spend most of their time up on the escarpment itself. They've made, I think it must be about 4 or 5 zebra kills now in the last few days. One was near the clinic, and then 2 zebras were killed close to our the cell phone tower up on top of the hill. So they've been kind of hammering the zebras, and I believe yesterday Manu said when he saw them, then he just heard zebra pandemonium for about half an hour, which would probably suggest that they managed to grab one. There's a beautiful bird of prey that's sitting on our left hand side. Please don't fly away, because you're a very, very pretty example of a tawny eagle. So you get, Patty, you said really scary that the lions were there and we walked past them. Yes, Patty, not ideal, but it's okay. Like I say, all's well that ends well. We'll just chalk that off to one of our 9 lives and hope that that doesn't happen again. But as you can see, we've got a beautiful example, like I say, of a tawny eagle. Most of the tawnies that we see in South Africa tend to be quite brown, but every now and then you'll get what's called a pale form, and they get this more sort of creamish color to them. They are absolutely beautiful when they get this coloration. It's one of my favorite kind of morphs of the tawny eagle. You get this sort of light cream color, and you can see it's looking a little bit on the damp side, unfortunately. It's when it rains as much as it does, the birds of prey are the ones that probably suffer the most, because they get very, very wet, and it takes a while for them to dry. You can see how the kind of feathers on the back of its head are all matted together from moisture, and so it'll sit here, probably wait for that sun to just warm it up, dry it out, before it will then go flying about and looking for all kinds of food. Now remember, these guys are often a good sign when you see them hanging about with vultures or battalier eagles, because they're generally a good indicator of a fresh carcass. They will scavenge quite readily, and particularly on, like I say, very, very fresh meat. So you will see them from time to time kind of moving about. But isn't that a beautiful bird? I think so. Now you can tell it's a tawny eagle just by its gape. So you can see it's got that yellow sort of part that goes towards the eye from its beak. Now with the tawny, it gets to about halfway. With the steppe, it extends past that and goes towards the sort of back end of the eye. So that gives you an idea of kind of how to be able to ID these guys. Very cool. Now there's another car that's coming past, which might make it fly. Let's just have a little look quickly and see. No, it's deciding that it's going to just sit right there, and the vehicle is going to come past us, so we'll wait for them to kind of move past and to carry on, and hopefully our eagle will stay put. So Shamsan, it's not quite as sort of, I mean, yes, there is information that is shared. So guides will have friends that they'll phone each other and let each other know about certain things. But it's not the same as it is in Djuma. There's so many more guides here, and a lot of them are not guides that actually spend a vast majority of time here. So it's not like there's a lot of guides that come in from Nairobi or from wherever it is and do day trips and those kind of things. And so they don't have the same kind of network as what you would have in the Sabi Sands, where everyone is based there, lives there, and everyone gets to know each other that much better. But yes, there is still sharing of information between guides. It happens quite regularly. We try and speak to as many people as we can when we're out and about in the park, and try and help them too with sightings, and that way when next time they see something, they'll be able to let us know. But Gigi is probably the best with that when it comes to that. He's seems to have a never-ending network of people that phone him for sightings. And Scott used to be very good at it too. Scott used to network with everybody. He used to have, I think he probably had every single ranger's number on dial, and used to phone before he headed out just to try and find out if they had seen anything. So, you know, there's an infinite information sharing network, but I don't think it's as efficient is probably the best word as what you would see from the Sabi Sands guys. And also generally here it's very tricky to know exactly what is being seen. So somebody will say they'll see a cheetah, but to get any information as to whether it's male or female or anything like that is very tricky, whereas in the sands, obviously, a lot of the time we get information on that specific animal a lot more detailed than what you'll get here. But doesn't mean that you don't get information here. There certainly is a lot of information sharing that takes place. Good. We're going to leave our tawny eagle. We're going to carry on. We're going to head off. I see there's some buffalo and some ellies in the distance that we might just take a turn past and have a little look at them and see what they've been up to. I think it's that big herd of buffalo that we saw yesterday. We're not too far from that area. And so in all likelihood, it's probably them that's just shifted kind of this way a little bit. But there's a few herds that hang around in this particular section. So there's the one that kind of hangs around just sort of behind us along a little lugger area, and the others that go into the marsh and various other places. Good. We'll keep motoring forward. While we do that, though, back to Jamie, and she's apparently also motoring now as she's left the hyena den.
Motoring is probably the wrong word. I'm not going very fast at all. Now, those of you who were watching the sunset safari yesterday know that I found an entire pride's worth of tracks. That works, doesn't it? An entire pride's worth of tracks walking in this direction, and it was a little bit too late for me to track properly, so I just took a chance and tried to cover as much ground as I could. Look here. Look at what we have found on Ingwe Alley. Over there, a nice, fresh something. Skull. Portion of a skull. It is a little bit smelly, and unfortunately the fact that it is here suggests that the lions are long gone. So this must have happened sometime yesterday afternoon. They finished off whatever that was. Something small, nyala perhaps. Nyala would be my guess, actually. Looking at the size and the width of that jaw. And I just want to jump off very quickly. You can stick with me. I'm just going to jump off and have a look and see if this is where they killed it, or if this is where the hyenas took it to. I think this is where the hyenas have been through already and cleared up. Usually if there's a kill around here, you can actually see flattened grass, bits of blood still on the grass. The grass is a bit red over there. I'm just going to have a quick look. I think that the lions, unfortunately, have since disappeared. How we missed this? Well, I mean, the thing is we actually, it's not really anybody's fault. With two vehicles, and it's very quiet at the moment, there's not many other guides driving around. They probably came and had a drink here. With two vehicles out, we can't cover every single avenue. Okay. All right, well, let's take a chance. Maybe the lions, they're not going to be full from an Inyala, but maybe they're still around on Djuma. They were walking east, and they haven't come back west. So let's carry on east and see if we can figure out where they've gone. Now, yesterday we were with the mating pair. We were with the ridge-nosed Nkahuma lioness and one of the evokers. Now, apparently, interestingly enough, it was a different evoker that was mating with the lioness than the one from the night before. And I mentioned that I found a piece of mane on the road that had been pulled out. I assumed it was the lioness, and I think there's a good chance it was actually during a fight between the male lions. This would also explain why Pretty was a little bit nervous earlier, backwards, forwards, sniffing carefully, and why Corky was a bit nervous last night when we saw her. Problem is, in this weather, as wonderful as the rain is, and I think you'll all agree that the whole place has turned green pretty much overnight, anything that crosses over the center of Djuma, over Twin Dams Road, basically vanishes, because it's basically a massive collection point for water, which means the soil's very hard and tricky to spot tracks, even with experienced eyes. They could have walked on here. Somebody's driven along and driven over their tracks already. Well, I'll just keep going. We'll just try. you know, you never know what we might meet. I've been hanging out around the hyena den for the last week, so I'm quite excited to expand my boundaries ever so slightly. I feel as though I have been let off a leash ever so slightly. I want to go exploring. I think we'll go east. I might even go and look for Tlalamba. Tracks? No, all vehicle tracks. And just a casual, gentle reminder to send through your questions on #SafariLive on Twitter. Alternatively, you can do it on the YouTube chat stream. Do you know that I have dreams about saying that? I have dreams about saying you're live from Djuma Private Game Reserve, which is in the Greater Kruger National Park area of South Africa. And I have dreams about saying send through your questions on #SafariLive on Twitter. I once dreamt that during a TV show that we found, before the TV show, we found Karula in somebody's garden. And the kids, their kids were playing in the swimming pool, and Karula had a kill in a tree next to them, and we were trying to tell the kids that they needed to go inside. And I mean, the weird stuff that comes out of our minds because we do this day in and day out. I can't remember the last time I had a non-work related dream. Well, you know, work, life, joy. Okay, I'm going to carry on. I've missed my lions wherever they happen to be. We only had a chance yesterday of finding them. Now we have to search once again to see where they've gone off to. Fortunately, while we have to do some searching, Tristan has done some finding.
Well, sorry, Jamie. I'm sorry you missed your lions. And luckily, we have found our lions. So these are not the ones that are roaring. We heard the ones that were roaring, and we were kind of coming around to get them. And we found this lot that are on a buffalo kill. So we saw those buffalo up ahead, and then when we got to where they were looking very edgy, and lots of tracks for them running up and down. It'd be quite funny if buffalo wrapped their way around. That would be pretty interesting. But anyway, they were kind of running up and down all over the road, and then we kind of came further a little bit and managed to find the lions. Now what's happening is that it looks like it's going to be the battle of the Olololos here. So you've got the Olololo lions on a kill. I think it's them. It looks like them. And then you've got the Olololo clan of hyenas. So the two of them are probably going to kind of engage with one another. There's lots and lots of hyenas that are starting to arrive. So at the moment, when we first got here, it looked as though there was only about 4 or 5 hyenas, and so slowly but surely I can see more and more that are starting to kind of run in. There you go. There's one that's arriving at the moment, so slowly kind of moving in. So we should get a little bit of interaction, hopefully, between them and the lions at some point. The thing is that the rest of the pride, we can hear them roaring, or at least some members of a pride are roaring to our right-hand side up against the escarpment. So there's an area just to the right here that is kind of a tree line, and they're roaring right from that tree line. So I don't know if the rest of the pride even knows about this kill, or they've already fed and have now moved off. I'm not quite sure. Or they've got their own, because the buffalo tracks are spread across this whole area, and so it could very well be that they maybe caught their own thing. But generally when lions roar, it's not when they've got food, because if they roar at food, obviously that attracts the attention of other lions, and that can be then quite dangerous for them to potentially lose their meal, or obviously be a different pride that they end up fighting with. So these guys don't seem to be too perturbed, though. I suppose if it was a pride that they didn't know, they would be a little bit more kind of wary of what's going on. They haven't lifted their head when the others have roared. They're just kind of looking around a little bit, and every now and then just feasting. But you can see there's happy, content lions. Now unfortunately it's quite far away. They're in an area that's the no off-roading zone, and so we can't get any closer than what we are right now, but that's okay. It's still... I think they've actually got 2 kills. You know that, Archie. Can you go to the left for me, please? A little bit more to the left. More. There's some more that are standing up there. They are, and it looks like something dark next to them. Yes, they've got 2. So it's not just the one that they've got. They've managed to bring down 2 buffalo. How's that? That's incredible. So it's quite no mean feat to bring down 2 buffalo. You can see that one is now well and truly down, but has not been opened up yet. So they've started to feed on one, but that they've actually got two. And what interests me is that as far as sort of lions that I can see, it doesn't look like that many that are here. So there's 1, 2, 3 of them there, and then it looks like maybe another 3 or 4 that are at the other carcass. So it's not a huge number of lions. To bring down 2 buffalo from a herd that of the size that we just saw is no mean feat at all, and they've done really, really well to be able to keep it. And I'm pretty sure these hyenas know that there's 2 different meals here, and that if they're just clever about what they do, they potentially can get themselves a lot of food. And you'll find maybe what will happen is that the lions will abandon one and feed off the other, and the hyenas will get into the other one. So Aegis, it depends on how many lions end up feeding on it, as to how long it will last. You know, if all 16 members arrive at this, then probably not too long at all. Lions have an ability to pack down huge amounts of food. Oh, there's even a jackal that's arrived. So we've got jackal, hyena and lions, and 2 dead buffalo, which is a recipe for a lot of entertainment. It's a pity it's as far away as it is, but hopefully, you know, we'll still be able to see what goes on. But Aegis, I mean, like I said, it depends on how many lions really feed on it, but I would imagine that 2 kills like this should last about 2 days. So today and tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow. Depends on whether the hyenas get stuck in. If the hyenas get involved, then we'll find that it'll be a different story, and in all likelihood the kills will probably disappear much faster than that. So you'll find that once these, there we go, you can see the lioness has now had enough of the hyenas getting too close, and look at how they just scatter as soon as she walks towards them. Now, of course, at the moment it's only those 4 that are kind of fronting up to this lioness. As the numbers grow and build, which they will, like I say, hyenas are never ones to shy away from a food source, and once they've realized that there's a decent amount of food available here, they're going to just more and more and more and more of them will arrive, and eventually then it becomes a numbers game. So while there is still sort of even numbers between lions and hyenas, the hyenas have got no chance. There you can see she's walking forward, and watch, the hyenas will slowly back away. They know the distance that they need to be in order to be safe from those lions, and so when she gets to a certain point, then they'll just casually walk and then stop again. So they keep a very kind of specific distance that they feel comfortable that they'll be able to outrun that lion should she charge forward. So let's just see, she might charge forward, but she must be careful, because what gets hyenas going and what attracts more is fighting with them. The more they fight and the more they argue over these things, the more they are going to kind of go after one another, and the more hyenas will arrive. Now, Jamie, you say, what is that bloody thing to the right of the carcass? It looks like a dead lion. I would imagine that it is the stomach content from this particular buffalo. That is what I would suspect it to be. Stomach content does have sometimes that sort of lighter colored tone, but it's difficult to say, really. It's kind of sitting in the grass, and I mean, we are a long way away. You guys are getting probably a better view than I'm getting. I'm watching all of this on a little kind of 5-inch monitor, so it's pretty tricky to actually make out too much definition on what's going on. But you can see as Archie comes back, that's the distance that we're dealing with at the moment. So we're sitting on the road, and those lions are all the way inside there. So it's a long, long, long way away, and whether or not, like I say, what that is, I'm not really sure. My instinct tells me that it would be the stomach content. You often see the lions drag it out. Cats do it regularly, is when the stomach is kind of, when they open up, they drag the stomach content out and pull it to one side, and then they'll feed on all the internal organs and then open that buffalo up and start feeding on the meat. So that's what I suspect that is. I suspect that it's just the internal organs. I hope it's not a dead lion. That would be very, very sad. The thing is that we're not going to be able to find out, unfortunately, because like I said, that's in an area where we can't off-road, and so we'll just have to wait and see what happens. But it's incredible that they managed to bring down 2. It must have been quite a fight between these guys, because, you know, buffalo herds, when they're as big as that, they don't back down for much. So they'll definitely try and their very best to you know, try and chase the lions away and protect those members. And so to bring down 2 big adult buffalo is really quite something. And so these lions have done a sterling effort. Now, intrigued as to whether or not the others are going to move in this direction. So like I said, they are roaring from not that far away. I would say it's probably about 400 meters, 500 meters from where we are that they're roaring, and I wonder if they're not going to join in here. It would be nice if they did, but you can see those guys are trying to just scoff down a huge amount. And it's interesting with the lions in this particular area is because you often see them feeding quite heavily quickly, much like a cheetah would, and that's probably due to the fact that there is a large number of hyenas as well, and so kills are never guaranteed between these two species. Joshua, are there youngsters in this pride? Well, there's sub-adults, but no tiny cubs, no. So 4 adult females and then 12 cubs, 12 sub-adults, but none of them are particularly young. They were all born last year, so they are over a year old. So young, yes, but not cubs, if that's maybe what you were asking. Now you can see that female, she's just walked towards those hyenas and she's just watching them ever so carefully, and it's almost just a statement as if to say, well, I'm right here, you guys are not welcome at our carcass, you just stay where you are. And she's almost keeping them at bay so that they don't come any closer at all. Now, whether or not it's a brave move or a stupid move, I'm not quite sure. It depends on how many hyenas actually eventually end up here. At the moment I can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hyenas. So 5 hyenas, which is really not enough to go after this many lions. They're going to have to build up to probably 20, 30 before they would be able to actually challenge. Now the Olololo clan is big enough for that. It's just going to have to take a while till every member actually starts to arrive here to be able to kind of figure it out and work out what's going on. So Niconico, yes, hyenas can hunt buffalo on their own, and they do so regularly here in the Mara Triangle. It's one of the areas where you do see a lot of buffalo kills via hyena. So the Happy Zebra clan, that's their favorite meal, is to hunt little buffalo calves. And then we saw the other day that the North clan was on a big buffalo kill, and so that could have easily been them that brought it down. The hyenas here are not shy to hunt, particularly because their numbers are so big. Now the North clan in this particular section is big. In relative terms to the Juma clan, it's over 70 members. But if you look at other clans within the Mara system, there's a clan across the river near Talek that's, as far as I understand, it's close to 140 in that clan, which is almost double North clan. Now 140 hyenas in one single clan is pretty ridiculous. I mean, that's unfathomable for us in South Africa, and we don't ever see clans that big. And so, these guys, to feed that many mouths means that they do need to hunt themselves, and they do need to be able to find food quite regularly in order to be able to sustain that. And so they have to hunt big animals like buffalo, and you can imagine if there's even 50 hyenas around a buffalo, the power of those guys would be enough to actually start to bring them down and to be able to catch them. So they do hunt them quite regularly. Like I say, it's not uncommon to see it. But can you hear the other lions? I don't know if it might not be coming through, but that's the ones that I was talking about that are behind us. So they're still calling from behind us. I wonder if they're not on their way here. It'll be really nice if more lions arrive. It's always intriguing to watch lions come together. There's a lot of, obviously, interaction, particularly if it's not the same prides, then there's going to be a bit of a standoff. But if it is the same pride, then there's a lot of greeting that takes place. And if these lions are to keep these 2 buffalo kills, well, then they're going to have to come together, and there's going to have to be more than just the ones that we see here, because at the moment, like I say, I only count, I think, about 6 lions that are here. I don't see too many more, and these guys must be in sterling shape, because these must be the same ones that were hunting zebra yesterday that Manu saw, if it is 6, because that would be about right for these guys to do buffalo by the end of all of this. I'm pretty sure it's the stomach content from that buffalo. Now, the buffalo that they're feeding on at the moment looks like a female, which means a big male buffalo would be, which is what you often see in the Sabi Sands. The Nkuhumas will generally target big male buffalo And that's because they come across those probably more than massive herds. Here, there's a lot of herds that they can go after, and so they're able to rather sort of go for females, calves, those kind of things as in their sort of quest to be able to find food. Much easier to hunt, really. Right, we're going to kind of sit with these lions. We'll see whether those others arrive and what they get up to. And while we do that, though, let's send you back across to Molly, who's also looking for lions.
Lucky you, Tristan. I'm not lucky yet, but I've found fresh tracks of a male and a female lion. They were going the west side, the western side of the reserve, and we saw the fresh scat. Now I believe we might find these lions. You know, lions when they're mating, they move a lot. They don't sit on one spot. So, and the tracks are a little bit confusing because they are all over the place, going to all directions. We are out of the car with James, Trishala and Jackie. We're out there following and tracking. Successfully we saw this one track, which is a male one that goes out from those tracks. So we are heading to the direction where those tracks are facing. There's a lot happening here. Let me stop for a little bit because I can see an impala which is very young. Oh, here they go. Sorry about that. These are the impalas. We have a lamb there on your right, but it's coming to you, Malume. There. This is beautiful. This lamb has grown. Yeah, this lamb has grown. Hopefully you're gonna survive until your first year, because it's not so easy in this place to survive, because we have Tingana, we have Hukumuri, we have Tandi, Tlalamba, we have the lions. Yeah, you're gonna have to survive, you have to camouflage, you have to stay close to your mom. Hopefully I will see you next year, if I will be able to spot you, because they all look the same. Nice camera work for Malume James. Yeah, Malume means an uncle in my language, which is an uncle. My grandmother will beat me down if she will hear me calling an older person with his or her name. In my language and my culture, we have to use the word uncle, which is Malume. That's why in most cases I called Uncle James Malume. He likes the name. I'm driving forward now because the impala went to the other side. And then we are still looking for these mating lions. David, what a nice question. You want to know, will the impalas, mother impalas protect their babies from the predators? I don't think so. I don't think so. What they do is, I've seen them hiding their babies and leave them on that spot and go forage for quite some time. Then they will come back when they are full to feed them milk. They will suckle for a couple of minutes to an hour, and then they leave them there. So they will start following their mothers the second day or the third day of their birth. As you can see, even male impalas, they don't protect themselves from predators using their horns. Those horns are just used for mating purposes, like fighting for mating rights. So, as you can see, it was last month, I think, I was there with Lauren when we saw a baby impala that was killed by Hosanna. The mother was in there. She left to forage and feed. So the lamb was left vulnerable because it was not in a very good place to hide itself there. Where are these lines? While I'm looking at these lions, let's go to the Mara with Tristan with the male lion.
Well, as you can see, the big booming roars that we heard earlier is thanks to this fella who's just starting to arrive at the moment. So this is one of the Kichwa boys. He's the blonde-maned male who doesn't look very blonde because he's covered in mud and a very, very full belly. You can see he's about to kind of come past us, which is very, very cool. So are you going to stop right there, boy? He is a seriously beautiful animal. So let me get my ugly mug out the way because that's a pretty lion. Now, unfortunately, he's going to cross right in front of us. Well, not unfortunately, fortunately, because we weren't sure where he was going to go. But there he goes, across, and he's now spotted all of these kills. And it's going to be interesting to see what the kind of reaction is from these females. They don't seem too perturbed. Now, he's kind of moving big lugger with a full belly like that. It must be tricky, but he must have eaten something else unless he was already at this carcass and went and tried to go get water. But I don't really see why he would go that far, given that there's water not too far from here. There's lots of puddles all over the road from the rains that we've had. So I'm intrigued that he kind of came from so far, and his belly suggests that he is had some sort of food item already this morning, and especially the mud around his face, and probably is a bit of blood and things as well that is there. But if he was part of this, I suppose it would help explain why 2 buffalo are down. Males are hugely important when it comes to the ability of lions to bring down large food items, and you can see the lionesses are not too concerned. They're watching him just sort of amble in, and none of them have really run away or have kind of panicked yet. So he's clearly known to them, which is good news, and so everything seems to be okay. But hyenas now will definitely give a wider berth. When a male lion arrives, it's obviously a very different prospect to female lions, and you find that the hyenas are far more respectful of big males like this than they are of the females. You can actually see, look at the distance now between where the carcass is and where they are kind of gathering in comparison to what we saw earlier with the lionesses. You can see how far they've moved. So there he is there. They've all kind of scattered on his approach and have given it a much wider berth, and which is good news. You can see he's now scent marking as well, so that's just a sign to all lions and hyenas alike that he is the dominant boy in this area. And I'm glad to actually see him looking the way that he is, because the last time I saw him, he was looking very sorry for himself. He had some nasty bites to the inside of his leg, and he's got a ripped testicle, which is not very pleasant at all, but he's looking fantastic and walking quite fine, which is wonderful. Now, a lot of you are saying he has mutton chops for a mane. Yes, he does, doesn't he? He's got kind of those, the way that it comes down on the side. But I think it's more mud than it actually is mane at the moment that kind of comes down the side of his face. Now, let's see if he's going to roar for us. Sometimes when male lions join, just to assert themselves after they've scent marked, they'll sometimes let out a booming roar just for everybody to know what's going on. Now, I'm also hoping that the other male is around and he'll join. But look at all the lions coming from the left now. So we thought there was only 6 lions. Look how many are starting to emerge from all of the thickets and are all moving straight towards where the male is. So they're all kind of slowly but surely coming as if to kind of greet him, to see who he is, and just to reaffirm bonds and make sure that they are not attacked by him in the future. So you'll see there'll be a lioness that's going to join, and then a few others that are slowly coming through as well. It looks like quite a few of the youngsters actually are coming to greet the big male. Look at that. How cool is that? It's all the younger ones. Hello, Dad. Hello. Isn't that cute? That's very cool. He gives you an idea of just how much that young boy's got to grow. So that one that greeted him is a young male, he's got a long way to go before he's in his prime. Gives you an idea. Now look how that young male's sniffing. No, don't sniff your dad's tackle. That's not going to be ideal. Yes, well, that's what's happening. Dad doesn't seem to mind too much. And there's going to be a little head rub. Isn't that cute? So that's father and son. That's going, well, perceived son. Like I say, it's got a lot of growing to do still. Goldilocks, I think more than, I mean, it's not just one or the other. I think it's a combination of everything. So scent, visual, you know, the sound, that will all be stuff that they will utilize to be able to determine who is who. And so you'll find a lot of kind of what they know is probably already knew that he was coming just from his noise that he was making, from his roaring, and then on top of that, the sight of him, they can recognize his sort of look, and then also his way that he kind of goes about it himself, where he walks towards them, and then obviously smell when they get a little bit closer, they'll recognize him. But you can see all the young ones came to greet him. Isn't that cool? So all the adult females, they didn't care too much, but all the little ones have come out and are slowly but surely kind of filing towards where Dad is. You can see a lot of them are lying down there now. Those are the original two that kind of came through. You can see the one is very light in comparison to the others. So that was the first one that came to greet them, and there's many of them just kind of scattered around. How many? I'm not quite sure. I'll have to count them all, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I can see 9. So this must be the group of 10 plus the male. Lauren, I'm not sure. It could just be a tear in his scrotum rather than his testicle. But you'll find that probably if it is the testicle itself, he'll lose some sort of function from it. But, you know, he'll still be able to produce the goods with the other testicle. So, you know, one down is not the worst thing. 2 down is a big problem. But he's really looking a lot better. He's still a bit ginger when he sits down, but he's otherwise looking in a far better way than the last time I saw him. The last time I saw him, he didn't look as though he was too keen for anything. And what caused those bites and sort of scratches and cuts, I'm not sure. It could have been hyenas, it could have been other lions. I suspect other lions, though, because there's very few hyenas that tangle with big males like this. But you can see he's happy where he is now. He's obviously, I think, was already at these carcasses. I have a funny feeling he's already eaten, and so that's why he's not too perturbed to get closer. If he hadn't eaten, he would have sort of run towards those carcasses and would have fed and dominated them rather than just sitting down. Good. We're probably, unfortunately, though, going to have to leave this, and we're still, as there's lots and lots of cars that are sort of building up, which is not ideal, so we're going to probably head on. But while we do that, I believe Tricia's now in the hot seat, so let's send you across to her with a bird of prey that probably is going to end up at these carcasses later in the day.
Good morning. I am so glad to be back in the hot seat, actually. I think I missed you guys. I actually enjoy it very much. Now we have a white-backed vulture here. Also something I quite like, you know. I think they've been following me around these last couple of days because I've been seeing so many of them. In fact, it's almost as if they've been hanging about these dead trees like little bulbs on a Christmas tree. It's like a Christmas tree of vultures that I've been seeing lately. But this also makes me a little excited because, as you know, we are looking for the lions. And if the vulture sees something, maybe the lions are around and they have a kill. But we won't know until we find them. And that's what we're going to do. Going to look for these lions. Now, the last couple times I've been out, I've seen the lions twice, the mating pair. So I'm quite excited. And I think that maybe, you know, I have the right energy and they're going to come to me. So let's go look for them. And hopefully we'll find some tracks and be able to follow them. So yesterday, Jamie and I went on a short drive in the morning, and we didn't intend to, but we came across the mating pair right by Gallagher Shortcut, or near the pan. So, and we actually found a bit of his mane that she had pulled off, obviously. Like I said before, it is a really intense affair, the whole mating business. So she had obviously had enough, I suppose. She ripped some mane off of him. We found it lying on the road. Sarah says, maybe I should be worried that these vultures are following me. You know, I thought about that, Sarah, but then I thought maybe, you know, every animal needs their mother, their matriarch, you know. Jamie, we often say that she's the matriarch of the hyenas around here. Maybe the vultures need some love as well, and I can be their matriarch. As long as they don't swoop down on me and then eat me alive, it's all good. But thank you for your concern, Sarah. Starting to warm up now, which I'm really, really happy about. As you can see, I've still got my jacket on, and I probably will still have it on until it reaches about 27 degrees. But it is definitely warming up, and I am very happy about that. And just as I'm driving down, just looking down for tracks as I drive about. And actually, while I do that, instead of boring you guys, let me send you over to Jamie with some Ellies.
Trish, I highly doubt you are boring anyone, but this male elephant is just so beautifully close to us that we just had to show him to you. Hello, my boy. This is very obliging of you. You like that, Acacia? Now don't go behind us. It was so nice having you here. Yes, you're big and scary. Very big and scary. Behave yourself. I'm just keeping an eye on him. He's come very close to us and is now, of course, feeding right behind us. And he's going to get a little bit of, not a fright, but he's just going to put his head up a bit when we start the vehicle. But I'm going to turn around because he's far enough that I feel comfortable doing so. My boy? I can't see you from that angle. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Apparently lots of you have already noticed that he only has one tusk. Most likely he damaged the root base at some point when he was younger. He broke his tusk and it right at the base of his tooth. However, if I look at it, let's just get us a bit straighter. There we go. If I have a look at him, he doesn't show any sign of ever having a tusk. There's no sort of swelling coming out from where the tusks protrude from around the upper jaw and from the other side of the trunk. So it is possible that he was actually just born with only one tusk. It does happen. Some elephants are born without a tusk. Some elephants never grow tusks at all. But most likely, if an elephant has one tusk, the most likely explanation is that at some point he damaged the other, possibly sparring with another male, for he is of that age. He is a teenager, recently released from his time with his family herd or breeding herd. I don't suppose released is the right word. He has reached independence and moved away from them. So he's of that age where sparring is an important part of his life, practicing his fighting skills with other elephants. And he's being very obtuse. From being very obliging to being very obtuse, now we've only got his bottom, which is not really what we were looking for. We were actually looking for lions, but in a sort of half-hearted way, because those tracks are so old at this point that I'm really just doing it out of a curiosity to see where they went on my way to Tlalamba, or where Tlalamba was last seen. Lauren, you want to know, let's reposition and see if we can at least get a view of his face. Apparently there was a second one somewhere here, but I haven't seen it, so let's settle for him now. not settle. That's a horrible way of phrasing it. But let's go sit with him for now. Lauren wants to know if it will affect his fighting, the fact that he has only one tusk, when of course it comes time to fight seriously for mating rights. I don't think so. Not too seriously. A lot of an elephant's fight, while tusks do play a role, are largely about strength more than anything else. And while they can seriously injure each other with their tusks, sorry boy, I don't want to bug you, I just want to see you. Well, that was a beautiful way of stopping. No, he is really not having this. He is just not cooperating. Okay, I'll try and reposition it a little bit. I don't think it's going to too seriously affect his fighting ability. I think that with completely tuskless males, I think it probably does have an impact on them. But again, they can compensate for it with their strength and size. And the tusk growth of an elephant is really individual. So some of them have very big tusks, some of them are very small tusks. And the longer the tusks, the heavier it is for the elephant to actually hold its head up.
On the eastern side of right at the dam.
Sorry, that's my game drive radio. That will soon be sorted. I've just been listening because apparently there are lions that have been found on Buffelshoek, which I suspect are the Nkuhumas, but we don't know for sure. Okay, come. Let's try this repositioning thing again and see whether or not he's going to cooperate. I was derailed by the tusk conversation. I was actually thinking about whether or not he is rejoicing in the fact that he's got something more interesting to eat. No, he's just not having it. All right, I'm not going to push him too much further. He's not really moving away from us. He's just, wherever his feeding takes him, seems to take him away from us. But I'm not going to keep following him, or he is going to get irritated with us. We'll try for one more spot. I know what we'll do. Should we go ahead of you, mister? That's what we'll do. We'll go ahead of you. Then at least we can reverse back to where you are. What was that? Oh yes, I wonder if he's quite excited by the vast variety of fresh food. When I came upon him, he was munching on a buffalo thorn, and the buffalo thorns have just got their leaves, so they look fresh and green and beautiful, and it must have been my imagination and far too much anthropomorphizing here, but he just looked so happy. He looked so thrilled to be eating something that delicious. And I certainly think that animals are not as taste driven as humans are. Obviously, over many years, we've evolved our taste buds, or sense of taste, and our appreciation of things that we taste. But it must surely. Look, he's going for buffalo thorn again. It must be so nice. Never mind that they have nasty spiked thorns that poke themselves so easily into human flesh. He is completely... what's the word I'm looking for? He's completely oblivious to that. His skin is so thick that he doesn't even notice. And I'm sure it must bring him some level of comfort, knowing that the long dry season is over, and that for the next few months at least, he's going to have a nice juicy source of food. Not dried up grass, and that's something else for him to look forward to. The trees have got their leaves, but the grasses haven't recovered yet. They will very soon, but maybe that's something else he's looking forward to. Nice thick clump of red grass, which has enormous grazing value or nutrition value. Perhaps a nice thick panican clump. I don't know. I don't know if elephants after a few years become accustomed to the seasons and know what to expect. I think that they do. It's acacia time now. I know we're not allowed to call them acacias anymore, but forgive me. I'm still part of the old school of thought. Patrick, I blame Australians. It's probably not the first time someone said that to Pat. He gets it a lot, he says. He, of course, is sitting behind me. Look how delicate this process is. Definitely doesn't want to eat any more bark unless he absolutely has to. So he's plucking away at the leaves. Oh, now we're on to a small leadwood. No, that's not very nice, boy. Where is he going to? Let's see if I can predict where he's going next. Actually, unfortunately, I don't think there's many yummy plants in his direct line. Oh, no, he spotted something at the bottom on the ground. I was looking at the trees, but he's actually found some nice fresh green grass, because the rest of the trees in this line are silver cluster leaves and guaris. I think there might be a buffalo, tiny baby buffalo thorn over there. Yep, there is. That's it. He's got it. Apparently you're all picking up on the sound of the woodpecker in the background. I heard it, but it is a little bit far directly into the sun. Otherwise I would have shown it to you. You will also, of course, hear the francolins. Actually, there's lots of birds calling. What I heard was Kirst say the word shoulder. What was that? Ah, showed. I would have showed him to you. It's remarkable what comes out of one's mouth when one thinks that one is speaking actual English. And by one, I mean me. Here we go, on to the next red thorn. Ah, I can hear the second one now. Somewhere in this thicket. This is lovely. A truly beautiful and a peaceful morning with a majestic animal, even if he is playing hard to get on camera. Now, speaking of majestic, let's go across to Tristan in the Mara with an incredibly majestic bird. I got caught out by the delay.
Well, majestic is probably a word that you could apply to many birds of prey, especially when they're in flight. But this particular one is still sitting, like most of the birds will be until the sun comes out and, like I said, dries them off. We discussed it with our tawny eagle earlier that, you know, it's going to take a bit of sunshine just to dry the feathers for a lot of these birds, and then they'll start to kind of move around and start flying again. But this is a black-chested snake eagle, so these guys are very common in this area. We see them all over the place. You often kind of see them on top of the trees, just sitting, looking with that big beady yellow eye. Now, of course, it's going to face the opposite direction, so that I can't show you the big beady yellow eye, but there you go, you can see where it is on top of the tree. And so as you drive around in the Mara, this is a typical sight, is trees like that with a bird of prey perched on top, and 9 times out of 10 it's one of the snake eagles that we see on top of these kind of trees. So obviously you get these guys, and then you'll get the brown snake eagle, western banded snake eagle, and then there's a Burdane snake eagle, which is very, very rare. One was seen actually a few days ago, which is quite cool. And then there's the short-toed, well, Burdane's short-toed snake eagle that you get out here. And so not one that you get to see very regularly at all. So we're looking around for it. It was seen, like I say, a few days ago. So hopefully at some point we'll be able to catch up with it. But it's a typical snake eagle kind of stance. You can tell them from the other eagles quite quickly. You just need to look at the way that they sit. They often sit quite upright, and then they have this very, very big rounded head that you see in this on most of them, and then coupled with typically very, very pretty eyes in the form of bright yellow, orange kind of colors that they have, and then they've got those bare featherless legs. So pretty easy to tell them apart from the other eagles out here. And then obviously between each one is also not too difficult. They all look pretty different, other than maybe the short-toed and the juvenile western bandeds, which look very similar and can be very tricky to tell apart. So Roshni, they're more of a brown color than they are black, I suppose, and this one doesn't have huge sort of black chest area, but basically what happens is it comes down the throat and then it kind of ends just sort of here is where kind of the sort of length of the darkness goes. So I suppose it's for a bird it's more chest than anything else, you know. Otherwise it's got breast or then I suppose what's underneath that would be rump, I suppose is what they would use for the next section. So it doesn't go very far, no, but it's the kind of head area and then just onto the sort of shoulders is where you'll see that black extending down. And you know, I don't know, it works for this bird. I quite like them, and like I said, it depends on where you are. Sometimes here in the Mara it doesn't go as far down. In Djuma I've seen some that go almost all the way sort of halfway down. Sometimes it just depends on each individual. It's much like a lion's mane in many respects, is that some will have bigger sort of manes than others, and so you know that's the thing with these guys, is that they're all variable. Now I often like this little section here. This is a good leopard section, which you might all laugh and say, but why? It's so open. But for some reason the leopards like it here. Now this particular tree up in front here is one that I've seen a leopard sitting in before, one behind us as well and one here, so they like it in this area. It's a young male that I've seen here a few times. He's not Hosanna relaxed, nor is he kind of even maybe, I don't know, who's that a little bit skittish and a little bit shy with us. He's more like this kind of female that mated with Tingana relaxed. But he's relaxed enough that if you saw him from here to the tree, you could stop and he'd stay in the tree for a few minutes, and then eventually he kind of gets a little bit antsy and comes down. And if a second car joins, well, you've got no chance. But I've seen him twice in this area, or 3 times actually in this area, so he seems to hang around. And then there's obviously the shepherd's tree male that also comes through this section, and for some reason they just like this area. I don't know what it is about it that makes it enjoyable for leopards. It's probably the fact that it's quite close to the escarpment. The escarpment is right on our right hand side, and there's a beautiful kind of view of it today because it's got a little blanket of cloud that's sitting on it at the moment, which reminds me a lot of Cape Town in South Africa. So Table Mountain often gets this little blanket of cloud, but the escarpment is very close, so that's a good area for leopards to come down. And then all these trees is a great place to put carcasses and to be able to hide out. Now, Carol, you say if anyone can find a leopard, it would be me. Well, Carol, I'm not sure. I mean, last time I was here, I saw a lot of leopards, and they were fairly common. Well, not common, but I mean, they were around. But it's interesting, speaking to rangers and guides and various other people here, it seems as though the leopard sightings have gone completely kind of off the boil. One of the rangers was telling me he hasn't seen a leopard in 3 months, which is pretty crazy when you think about it, and he's one of the rangers that's actually stationed not too far from here, and also the guides themselves are saying that the leopard sightings are very few and far between. In fact, the only female that they're really seeing is the Maji Machafu female right down in the south, but other than that there's really not been many sightings, particularly up this way, which is quite strange. But like I say, when I was here, a lot of the leopard sightings I had was in this section, so I don't know where they all are at the moment. You probably find that the grass being so short at the moment is not easy for them to move around without being spotted by not only tourists but things like prey animals as well as lion and hyenas, and then they're trying to kind of stay away from that. So that's probably why they've moved maybe up into the escarpments or into the forest sections along the river, where it's very difficult to negotiate and traverse. But we'll keep persevering. I still want to keep going down to that area where that little leopard cub was seen. I mean, part of me reckons that they probably in all likelihood have moved those cubs, given that the lions are also denning in the same lugger system not very far away. But you never know, maybe we get lucky and we see a little 1-week-old leopard cub. Wouldn't that be quite something? Or 2 weeks old now. But in the meantime though, talking about cubs and, well, how they were made, let's send you back to Trishala, who's found lions that are in the process of making little ones.
Yay, we found them. I'm quite excited. This is the 3rd time I've seen them now, so I'm getting quite used to them. It's an amazing thing to be able to follow animals around, and then or follow individuals around rather, and then you get to know little things. Oh, you know, one thing I have noticed about this couple, that he does not take his eyes off of her. He's literally every every movement she makes, every time she gets up, he's there. He's ready. He's not going to let her out of his sight for anything. I'm just going to adjust quickly so we can get a better view. They're just lying down a bit now. If I could manage to. My lovely assistant, James Hendry. Thank you, James. Now we put it into lower range so that we have better control, and we have lower revs so we don't disturb them too much. Now, based on the tracks, they have been moving around quite a bit. Not a big distance, but actually moving about a lot. We saw tracks going in and out, around. And if you watch them, and we sit here for a while and we do watch them, you'll see that they'll get up, turn around, move 5 meters, mate again. Oh. Watch that, watch that. Okay, so this is Regino's female from our Niconico pride. Look at that, he's just scent marked on that tree now. Eyes fixated on her. Can you see what I mean? How they've gotten up and just moved around. Daniel would like to know if they eat while mating at the exact same time. Not quite, Daniel, but definitely during the day if they are mating, and this mating period will be protracted. So maybe they'll be doing this for about 4 days. In that time, if they have a kill, they will eat. But it obviously won't happen at the exact same time. Mating is a very, very important, very big part of the lion's life. When it comes to a lion, I think of 3 things: feeding, sleeping, mating. Sounds like the life, doesn't it? See, she's just having a snooze now. But in a couple minutes they'll be up and they'll be... Jessica says that she looks like she needs a meal. She probably does after all this mating. This has been day 4, I think. Day 3 or 4 that we've seen them. I think day 3. So she probably is looking for a bit of a meal. And I did hear about some buffalo yesterday, I think. And we know that the Niconicos really like buffalo, so maybe she'll be lucky. Oh, look at that mane. Makes you want to take a comb to it. Wonderful blonde mane. Yeah, being close to such a... I mean, this is the largest carnivore on the planet, or in Africa, just in Africa. And it really makes you feel in awe of their presence. I mean, they are big. You don't think they're going to be that big, and they are big, they are tall. And you notice these little things like the tufts of hair you'll find on his legs as well, ends of his tail. It's very impressive. Now they'll sit like this for another few minutes, maybe even half an hour, and then they'll do exactly what you saw just now. They'll get up, walk a few meters, yawn a bit. He'll get up too, just to make sure that she's not straying, and then they will lie straight back down. I'm quite happy to have found them, obviously with the assistance of my lovely team behind me. We even heard them all through the night last night. Michael would like to know which coalition rule the Sabi Sands right now, and that would be the Evokers. Primarily them, but there are, for Juma, it's the Evokers, but you must also know the Sabi Sands is quite a big, it's a massive reserve. So at the moment for us, it's the Evokers here at Juma, but then there's also the Birminghams, there's Torchwood Pride. No, Torchwood is a Pride. Yeah, I think that's the ones I know at the moment in the Sabi Sands, but those are the ones closer to us. And then, of course, the prides that the Evokers take ownership of, if you may, at the moment, here at Juma would be the Nkohumas, which is where Ridge Nose is from. Oh, to be snoozing on a weekday at this time. It is the life. Karen wants me to make sure that this is an Evoker male. As far as I know, it pretty much has to be. It's their territory. So if any other males were coming in, we would definitely know about it. It's nice that the birds have quietened down a bit. We heard them before. Obviously, this was when the lions were up, so they had a view of them, and then they were calling quite a bit. But now they've settled down, and so now that the lions have settled down, so have the birds. It's actually a very nice, peaceful scene right now. I'm actually really, really hoping that we get them in the act of mating, because it's a really, really interesting thing to watch, especially now that I've seen it. I remember a couple days ago I said I really wanted to see mating lions, and I hadn't seen a kill as well. Ooh. Ooh. Let's look at some of the birds that are around there. These look like starlings. They are either Cape Glossy starlings or greater blue-eared glossy starlings. It's actually a bit hard to tell because they both have a very similar structure, but their call was what I would be able to tell them apart by. But you can see even they've calmed down a bit. Oh, tail's going. One thing I really like about cats' tails that I've noticed, it's almost as if they seem to have a twitch or like a nervous or excited something goes down to that tail. It's always moving, doing something or the other. I think it's quite cute. Now this is something I've noticed a lot with lions. If one lion moves or makes a movement, it's sort of a contagious thing, like the next one will pick up their head. It may not be a big movement or something very obvious, but they all seem to stir at the same kind of time. I'm gonna sit with these big cats for a little longer. In the meantime, In the meantime, while I sit with them, let's go to Tristan, who is on the road, and hopefully we'll find something very interesting.
Well, as you can see, we've got a beautiful black-headed heron that is busy skulking about, and these guys are actually quite interesting to watch. They're birds that, you know, often we drive past because they're quite common out here, but they're actually great birds to kind of follow around for a while. And the reason why is that they are supreme predators, and they'll hunt all kinds of big things. So they'll go after things like snakes, frogs, lizards, and so sometimes they pull out the most interesting sort of creatures out of this grass that you didn't really think that would be in certain areas. But my favorite is when they go after snakes, because they wrestle with them quite a bit, and you often find the snakes trying to kind of wrap around their beak, and they grab fairly large ones. So it's always good watching them. And this particular bird would be on the hunt now. It'll be kind of moving around, and I'd imagine a lot of the herons at the moment are going to be utilizing the fact that there's a bit of standing water in places where they can then hunt things, particularly like frogs. Moment is the easiest thing to find as well. Yeah, at the moment, this in sort of May and June, water out this whole section, so all the way back to where you see the sort of trees starting right in the background there. That's sort of where the water would extend to, and it was over the road in places here as well. And so this was a great hunting ground for a lot of birds. And when you came here, you used to find these guys, a lot of them, a lot of saddle-billed storks, egrets that would be here, that would all kind of hang around and try and just sort of find bits of food items in the sort of marshy area. So it's interesting kind of to see that now, after a little bit of rain, they come straight back here. They obviously know this is a place with good pickings for food. But you can see why it's called a black-headed heron, just from the sort of black crest that it's got. Liz, no, I've never seen a Goliath heron in the Mara. Goliath herons are an interesting one. They typically, you'll find them mostly on river systems, so big river systems. Don't see them much in places where there's sort of standing water, although I suppose in the delta you do see them a little bit in Botswana, and in Zambia you'll see them on some of the sort of floodplain areas, but mostly they prefer to be on a river system with flowing water. Now when I was in the lower Zambezi, there's lots of them there. You see them flying up and down all the time. But here in the Mara, no, you don't see them at all. Oh, it's a lot more water than there was a few days ago, that's for sure. I wonder how that's going to affect the distribution of animals, because I believe a lot of you, well, I'll get onto my thought that I was talking about just now, but we'll talk about quickly that I believe a lot of you are discussing the heron that ate the rat. So yes, remember that was quite something actually. Like I said, it's amazing what they actually pull out. Now, Arch, what have we got sitting in the top of the tree? We're doing a bit of birding this morning because it's the best thing to be doing on a cool morning. There's a lot of birds sitting about. Saw some brown snake eagle just now, and there was also a long-crested eagle that we saw flying about, but I just want to double check what this one is. Same as before. So black-chested snake eagle, you can see a bit more easily now that it's against the sort of darkness of the escarpment rather than the light sort of white clouds that we had a little bit earlier, but that's very, very far away. Thank you, Archie. It's always good just to double check. You never know what birds are around, so it's always worth kind of having a look. But what I was going to say is that I was wondering how this rain is going to affect what's been going on, because we had a lot of zebras around, still kind of lingering after the migration. It was dry, lots of eland that were down here, much more so than what I had seen previously, and it seems as though since the rain I haven't seen nearly as many. This area here had a few zebra in it, and there's not one that I can see at the moment. So I wonder if the rains have pushed these guys a little bit further south, and maybe the big heavy set animals like the eland, they've decided they're rather going to head up onto the escarpment where it's a bit more rocky and probably a bit more sure underfoot than it is down here where it's very muddy and sticky, and their hooves kind of get sucked in. So it's going to be an interesting couple of days. I hope that also with the bit of sunshine that's coming out, trying to come out, should I say, that's going to get a lot of the animals moving about. So hopefully you'll see a lot of scent marking from various different species, I know Brent was chatting yesterday about which animal scent marked the most after rain, and so black rhinos, obviously we'll probably see them moving about if we spend time around the marsh, but also the cats will be out and also marking. Anyway, we're going to carry on. We're going to try and head to where we last saw Kikenya. While we do that, let's send you back across to Jamie, who's also just bumbling about.
Well, I had a bird, but now I have another bird over there on the left. And what was fascinating, it's over there, Craig, right on the edge of the marula tree. There. Now it's gone too. I was going to say, is what's fascinating is, watch this. Nobody wants this poor grey hornbill anywhere near it, which is a little bit unfair, given that it's in no way a threat to the other bird species. I mean, all it eats really is insects. I suppose, you know, ground hornbills will raid the nest of other birds, so maybe if a hornbill finds its way into a convenient area and happens to find some eggs, maybe it might decide to eat them. Tiny little eggs it could probably break open. Don't know, I've never seen the smaller species of hornbill do that. But I don't know why the other birds decided that it was not welcome there. It's otherwise a relatively innocuous bird. It's not like the harrier hawk that Goli had earlier this morning. Don't know, it's a mystery. Maybe competition for nest sites as well. It's that time of year where all of the birds have got one thing and one thing only on their minds, and that is making more little birds. So perhaps it was that. Don't know. Mystery. So, our elephant left us. We went briefly on to Torchwood to have a look to see whether or not we could find Tlalamba. No luck there, unfortunately. Not even a footprint in the sand. I'm sure she's there, though. I have a feeling that she's there, but I didn't want to hang around for too long without any signal. I suspect that she, unless Thandi of course came to collect her at some point in the night and took her to the next kill. So now, what? Now what? Don't know. I think what I'm probably going to do is go back to where I last had those lion tracks just to see whether or not I missed something. Sassy, no chameleons yet, but it's funny that you should ask that, because I was literally just 5 minutes ago thinking that exact thing and wondering when we're going to start spotting them. The thing is that really the easiest time to see them is at night, where they go white in color and they show up very clearly in our spotlights. And at the moment, those must have been Brent's old lion tracks from yesterday. At the moment, the days are so lovely and long that by the time we finish drive, we've barely used our spotlights for a couple of minutes, if that. It's still very, very light by the time we finish the sunset safari. So I think that's one of the reasons why we haven't seen any chameleons, because they're out. They must be. There's been plenty of rain, it's been warm. They should be out around about now. But also, once we get back on foot, which we should be doing from tomorrow actually, once we're back out on foot, then we have a much greater chance of finding them, because driving along like this, you have to get lucky. Right, well, I haven't had much luck this morning. I haven't managed to find, well, I've actually had fun though. It's really nice bumbling out and about, and it's a lovely morning. Tristan's also had quite a lovely morning, and he's going to give you a lovely view of a hippopotamus.
I don't know about that, Jamie. I think you had a wonderful time at the den to start the proceedings, and so, you're always lucky with hyenas more than anything else, so I suppose that's a good thing. But maybe one of the cats will pop out at some point and show themselves for you. Now, as you can see, we have the most random thing of the day, and that is, of course, now hidden behind a stump and a termite mound, but there it comes. There is a hippo that is cruising around in what can only be described as one of the oddest places that I think I've ever seen a hippo, because here in the Mara, yes, you see a lot of hippos walking around, and yes, you'll see them at night and various kind of times of the day along the river sections, and maybe even if there's a little kind of deep water point like around Egyptian Goose or Baghdad Pan, those kind of areas. But when it comes to sort of this time of the day and where we are currently, I it is the last animal that I would have expected to see. As you can see, we are in the middle of the big open area wilderness. There is not water anywhere near where we are. We're probably, I would say, easily 2 kilometers from the river, maybe more. In fact, probably a lot more than that, actually. I'd probably say maybe 4 kilometers from the river. And so this hippo is just ambling around in the middle of really nowhere, and probably doing it because it's come to this burnt area because the grass is probably that much tastier that it's decided, well, the weather is cold, it's damp, I'm going to go and eat out of the water for a long time, and then I'm going to head back slowly but surely if the sun gets hot. I'd imagine that's the plan, because there's no real place for this guy to go that he's going to be able to wallow nicely. Maybe one of the luggers, I suppose, has got a bit of water that he can kind of head into and go and kind of take it easy. But it is completely random to see a hippo just kind of grazing along on the open plains. You would expect things like Thompsons and Grants and zebras and wildebeest and those kind of things in this area, but probably not a hippo. Like I say, it's probably the furthest point from water that I would imagine a hippo could be in the Mara. But still very cool to see. Nice that it's kind of walking around and out in the open. Always nice to see hippos sort of doing their business and not just lying around in water. But anyway, we're on to the section where we last saw Kikenya. Well, not quite. We're on to the burnt area, so she could be anywhere through here. It has been 2 days since we saw her, so she could be anywhere here. Costa, I'm afraid not. We're not very close to the fox or jackal den. That was very close to where we saw the lions this morning with the hyenas, so it was that side. But there was just so many cars up there that I decided I was going to just get a change of scenery, and so we moved southwards, where it has been absolutely blissful because we have not seen a single car since we left the lions, and we've been meandering and puttering along slowly and watching birds and doing all kinds of things, and we haven't actually had to worry about moving off once. If we had stayed up that side, there was going to be a lot of cars. By the time I left, I think there was already sort of 10-11 cars in that sort of area, and so I thought to myself, better off coming down this side. So we'll go to the maybe I'll ask David this afternoon to go to the fox den and go and see what's happening there with the fox and the jackals. I know they've become very popular, those little ones. They're super cute, and so I'm not surprised. But if David doesn't have any luck this afternoon, I promise that I will head there first thing tomorrow morning and try and see if we can find our little foxies out and about. Right, so earlier I was saying there was a lot of zebra in this area that I wasn't seeing now, but you can see this is the start of them again. They are hanging around kind of close to this burnt section. You probably find at night kind of onto the burnt area where it's easier to see lions and hyenas and leopard and cheetah and all the various other things that hunt these guys. And then during the day they start coming off the burnt section and then start heading towards this sort of grassier area where there's probably longer grass that they can feed on. But isn't that absolutely beautiful with the kind of mist layer on the escarpment in the background? I always love the light that the Mara has. So not only does it always get these incredible kind of sunsets and sunrises, and you get the magic sort of orangish colored light, but what you get as well is the kind of escarpment itself goes almost blue color. And so you get this kind of blue tinge a lot of the time to the background, and I find it's very, very unique, and it's a kind of different landscape to many other parts of the world, and it's nice that you've got that escarpment in the background to give you that kind of blue hue. I don't know, for me it's just how I like it. I suppose from a photographic point of view it helps, but I just like that kind of coloration that you get as it kind of comes down, and then you get that sort of whitish green of the grass and the trees, and then the zebras, and like I say, the mist today is adding a little bit of extra sort of element to our scenery. But I'm hoping with these guys kind of still hanging around as much as they are, that it's always a nice thing when you've got lots of zebras about, because obviously that helps to feed the lion population, and so hopefully we'll kind of see lots of hunts taking place with them at some point. But it's also good because they're going to be keeping grass from growing too long, because the triangle of the grass can get quite crazy out here. And the last time I was here, this area, I mean, the grass was almost sort of taller than the zebras. Anyway, good. We're going to keep going. We'll see. Hopefully we can find Kikenya. While we do that, though, let's send you to Trishala, who's still sitting with her lions, and I believe they are very, very sleepy.
I am still sitting with these lions now. They've lifted up their heads just slightly, which is making me hope that they're going to be in the mood, and hopefully we'll get their mating on camera for you all to see. Gosh, it just fascinates me how he's got his eyes on her. Oh, are you cute? Oh, are you trying to be cute? Taz would like to know if lions would ever attack a hippo. Well, I suppose so, yeah. Obviously they are in different environments, so how often that happens is questionable. I mean, it would have to be the hippo coming out of the water at night, and then the lions hunting at night, obviously. So that interaction can definitely happen, but how often it happens, I am not sure. Hippos can get humongous. I mean, we saw one the other day. I've never seen a hippo that huge before. That was a big boy. It's hard to imagine, but the lions are not king of the jungle for nothing. They could definitely have a go at a hippo. Oh, it's such a nice scene, guys. The air is fresh. You can almost smell the greenery, if that makes sense. The dampness and the greenery. Sun peeking through. And we've got lions in front of us. Could we ask for a better morning? Plus we had ground hornbills. It's been a good drive for us. We can't see the other side of him, but he appears to be licking his paws. Yes, we're talking about you. Sometimes these big cats do the cutest things. Let's see what else we have found. Ah! We have a starling that's got some snake skin in its mouth. I think that's what it looks like. Yeah. This is cool. This is very cool. They both have a bit. So there's two starlings here in this bush, and both of them have a bit of snake skin in their mouth, which is quite interesting. So like I said, this is the same starling, or same type of starling we saw earlier. Could be a greater blue-eared glossy starling or a Cape glossy starling. Mac would like to know if they're going to be using it as food or construction material for their nests. It is more likely that they'll be using it for their nests, Mac. I think it's quite cool. I wonder if we can see them fly off to their nest and pack that in there. I always find this really curious, the way that certain animals can be so oblivious to what we appear as a dangerous, what appears to us as a dangerous animal. I mean, just below them is a pair of lions, and they don't seem to care. Now, one has flown up into the dead tree, that one there, so I wonder if they are going to be putting it into a nest close by, but apparently not, because they've flown off. So while we come back to our lions, we're going to be sitting here for a bit longer. Let's go to Tristan, who's got a bush pig. Not quite.
Well, talking about lions, we just stopped now to have a look at this beautiful warthog and just heard more lions roaring from where we are. So we'll have a little try and sort of see where we can go. But in the meantime, we'll give a bit of attention to our warthog friend, who is thoroughly enjoying the beautiful green grass. You can see he's got a few passengers. this morning as well, in the form of oxpeckers that are sitting on the back. And you'll find that these guys, I mean, they must be absolutely loving this little area here. It's nice and open, they can see what's going on, and on top of that is beautiful colored grass after this rain that will be filled with nutrients after, you know, the burn, and so it's probably one of the best places to find food. Now you can see it's an impressive individual. There's a male that we've got here. You can see his sort of extra set of warts on his face and quite big substantial tusks that are coming out of his mouth, and he's a little bit kind of nervous, and the reason why is because to his left is two jackals that are busy feeding on something as well. I'm not quite sure what they're eating, but it might be a good sign for us because maybe Kikenya is around here somewhere. There was also a couple of vultures and a hyena that was around, and so you never know, maybe she managed to kill something and these guys are just cleaning up the scraps. You can see they're eating something there. I can't tell you what it is. It's too small for us to actually kind of get any idea of what is left there, but maybe they scavenged a little bit. Like I say, when you see jackals, hyenas and vultures all in the same place, it generally means that there was something of interest for all of them. And you know, if it wasn't just the jackals kind of grabbing their own meal and just feeding, it definitely seems as though there was quite a few. But they are full bellied, these jackals. It looks as though they got a fairly decent meal out of whatever it was. Beautiful though, isn't it? It's nice when you've got grass this short that you can kind of see them so clearly, and you can see that sort of back that is all mottled, where they get their name. Blackback jackal has got a sort of dark coloration to it compared to the rest of their body, and while you would think that it wouldn't camouflage well, if you actually zoom out of those guys and you sort of have a look at what it looks like from here, if that jackal sounds like hyenas that are fighting just over this ridge, which is interesting. We'll have a little look. But there you go. You can see the warthog quite clearly, but the jackals themselves blend in very, very well. So that dark little back that they've got actually helps with kind of keeping them somewhat sort of camouflaged, even in open sections like this. It's also quite nice because you can see the sort of size difference between a warthog and a jackal. As the warthog kind of comes a little bit closer to investigate what's going on, it gives you a great idea of just how big warthogs are. Everyone often thinks of them as quite small. Now, Chris, can you age a warthog by the size of its tusks? No, not really. There's genetics. There's also, you know, wearing of tusks, and so some areas tusks will be much larger than in other areas. So no, it's not an accurate way of aging a warthog. Same with an elephant, really. Their tusks are not hugely accurate in terms of an aging, because obviously every single elephant has different length tusks, and so you can be a bit tricky with that. But what you can use is general size, I suppose, and wear and tear on the tusk itself. If the tusk is sort of blunted and has got lots of chips, that would be a much older individual. So there's a rough kind of, I suppose, to a degree. Once they reach an adult, though, it becomes very tricky to age animals. And as much as all of us as guides think that we're very good at aging animals, we're probably not. Listen. The lions are roaring. They're not far. Let's see if we can find these guys quickly. They seem like they're quite close. Somewhere just over this ridge, and it's where the noise of the hyenas came from as well. So I wonder if maybe there's not a kill somewhere and these jackals managed to grab something and bring it this way. Now, Azria, you would try and like make yourself as tall as possible as you drive here and try and kind of have a little look. Doesn't really work, but you know, you try anyway. The best thing actually to do is just now is to find a sort of vantage point, stop, and then you get onto the bonnet with binoculars and you scan around like that. Cool. We're going to look, we're going to see, we're going to try and find, hopefully we do find these lions that are calling, and while we do that, let's send you back to Jamie, who's found a rather lanky creature to show you.
I've found two rather lanky creatures, and it was touch and go as to whether or not we were going to manage to get them on camera, which you wouldn't think would be difficult, but they've been constantly moving in further and further into the thicket of this drainage line. So we've got two female giraffe here, one who looks to be slightly older than the other, just judging by the darkness or the dark color of her coat. That's a tricky thing, though. With giraffe, you've got to be careful of using or relying purely on the color of their coat. Some are just darker than others, but as a general rule, they do darken with age, particularly the males. more so than the females. I've seen some very old-looking, light, pale females and some very young giraffe that are dark in color. The same thing applies to them, I suppose, as with the elephant, the conversation that we had about fresh, nice green leaves. I'm sure that it must be something that they enjoy. No more bitter leaves of dry season. And you can see her reaching in there amongst the thorns of the sickle bush without a care in the world. Their skin is thick, their tongues are tough, and their eyelashes are long to help to keep them from being stabbed. Maritza, talking about the various food items that the animals might be eating, you want to know if the marula trees are fruiting yet. They are, some of them are. I've seen a few small marula fruits. It's a bit early in the season, but I have seen a few. I wonder whether or not it's going to be a good marula fruiting season or not. I somehow doubt it. I suspect that because of the dry season and repeated dry seasons 3 years in a row, I suspect that the fruits will be quite tiny and few and far between. I have seen giraffe eat marula fruit before, not with as much relish as I've seen elephants eat them, of course. They are definitely right up there. If elephants have a favorite food, that would probably be one of them. My favorite part of a giraffe is their nostrils. Unfortunately, they're not cooperating at all. Okay, well, it's not all about the big things. There's little things to see out here as well. Trishada is fascinated by them, and she'd like to give you a close-up view.
Yes, I am. I love the little things. Now, we have found a longhorn beetle who seems to be having a snooze at the edge of this. It's the buffalo thorn. I think it is. And he appears to be mimicking a netwing beetle, which is, of course, poisonous. So, for his own benefit, he has taken on this coloration so that he is basically ignored by predators, or they not give him a second look. That's why he's so out in the open. He doesn't really have a care, because his mimicry will save him, really. Lily says she loves the colors. Oh, aren't they beautiful, Lily? It's one thing I really like about the smaller things, or insects, is that they are always brightly colored, pretty things, lots of pretty patterns. If only we would just stop and look at them. So we're just having a look at all the things around us while we wait for our pair to mate, because I really want to get that on camera. In fact, RSS says, looks like someone painted that yellow stripe on him. Well, it wasn't me, definitely. It was, in fact, just his genes did the painting there. But it really is bright and so defined. It's like color blocking. I think they're very, very pretty. Well, while we was it Oral-B? I couldn't hear. Is that a toothpaste? Oh, AB says, nice job on the camera. Uncle James, Malume James. Very nice. Yeah, so we are waiting around for them. In fact, I'm going to be telling you about this buffalo thorn that this insect is sitting on while we wait for the couple to get going. nothing exciting to tell you except that these plants just seem to have it out for me. I have numerous cuts all over my hands from being hooked by them. Now they've got these thorns where one side of the thorn is a hooked curved thorn and the other one is straight, and they will just kind of, anywhere you touch, it's gonna get you. And it has gotten me bad. In fact, and I'm sure you know how much Brent likes barking at us, and he asked us to please cut down the buffalo thorn that is near camp, near where we exit to do our drives. And we had to do it, of course, because you don't want to disappoint Brent, otherwise you'll be beaten. No, he won't actually beat us. But you'll definitely be barked at. So we were out there with our pangas, or machetes, clearing buffalo thorn. Of course, all lodged into my fingers. And I'm convinced that they have some kind of irritant in them, even though it doesn't explicitly say so, but I'm convinced because each and every single time I get cut by them, it burns so bad. I don't mean the normal average burn. Buffalo thorns. So when you come to Africa, avoid them. They will hurt you, and then they will follow you and try to hurt you more. They're like that. It's almost like they think about what they're going to do and the victims they have. Buffalo thorns. In fact, they're all kind of healed up now, but you may be able to see just a few here and there. But yeah, all healed up. Come on, guys. Jason would like to know what buffalo thorn leaves taste like, and I know what Jason is trying to get me to do. And luckily for him, I'm in a big cat sighting, so I can't get out the car to try one. But I am actually surprised that Brent hasn't made us eat one yet. But he has told us that they taste like spinach, and it's actually very nice. The only ones we have tasted were things like the silver cluster leaf or the magic guari, which has a really high tannin content, so it just gives you kind of a dry mouth, and it's not very tasty at all. But apparently the buffalo thorn leaves are quite nice, more like spinach and quite tasty. In fact, I will taste them on camera for you guys, just not right now. Oh, Beetle is still having fun at the tip there. You can find so many animals or insects, even birds sometimes, around buffalo thorn, and I just wonder how on earth they do it, how they manage to avoid being pulled like I am. Pretty cool. You guys like spinach? Well, I like spinach too. You know what I really like? I like spinach and mushroom sauce. I do. Maybe we can, at camp, we'll modify it to buffalo thorn and mushroom sauce. Knocked out. They haven't moved for a while now. Before they were stirring just a bit, you know, lifting their heads up, moving their paws, but they look like they're in a bit of a proper slumber right now. This whole ordeal must be very exhausting. I don't blame them at all. Well, let's link to something that's a bit more on the move. Let's go to Jamie.
I am on the move. Not sure where I'm on the move to, except sort of in this direction, but I'm on the move nevertheless. Kirsty just called me good old faithful on the radio. Our flattery will of course get her everywhere, though we could ease off the old slightly, just a little bit. We can stick with faithful. Otherwise, I feel a little bit like one of those geezers. I refuse to accept Omar, JB. Not yet. Not yet. Omar, of course, for those of you that don't know, means grandmother. No. Right. Moving on. Come on, we must be able to find something. Something in this great, wide, vast wilderness. Hasana was on Chitwa yesterday, apparently, following along in his daddy's footsteps, quite literally. I don't think he's going to be back on Juma. I'll try and find out today whether or not he was seen this morning. Oh, spiderweb. It's that time of year. Lauren is going to have an interesting experience. Now apparently a lot of you did ask if I would go to Chitwa. Well, I would have, but my searching for the lions actually took me in the wrong direction. And at this point, I don't think I'll be able to even get there in time. I really don't like driving fast unless I absolutely have to. Obviously for wild dogs or something like that, or I'm racing to a sighting, that's one thing. But if I'm just anything in particular I'm going to, I prefer not to drive fast. I think you miss a lot. I prefer to amble along in gear and find things that way. Not that it's worked out terribly well in my favor. Ooh, dramatic. So Tristan, who of course knows the value of driving slowly and searching for all sorts of things, it has paid off for him. He's found a murder scene. Dun dun dun.
Well, I do. I'm just letting a car pass us, though, before I start telling you everything that I'm going to tell you about driving slowly and looking at things. Now, just now we were sitting with those jackals. We can hear the lions roaring. There's hyenas around. There's vultures around. And there's definitely a smell in the air of a fresh carcass. And so we were sitting here thinking to ourselves, well, there must be something around. And so just to the right-hand side, as we were driving, we could smell that fresh kind of carcass smell. And there you can see there is a massive blood stain that is all over the grass. So that is all blood that is leached into the soil from what can only be lions that have killed it. Now, if we look from that blood stain, and we come kind of down onto the banks, you can actually see the lion tracks all up and down on this bank. So this is all tracks of lions kind of moving around. So they obviously killed themselves what looks like maybe a zebra, given that there's zebra tracks in amongst this. And what's happened then is that the hyenas and the sort of jackals have cleaned things up. But that's all one big mess. Like I say, you can see zebra tracks in amongst there with, like I say, lions that have also been feeding around this area as well. So the lions are not far. We can hear them roaring. We know that they're close by, but unfortunately we can't just go kind of piling off road until we actually spot them. So there you'll see a bit more kind of the carnage that took place. But obviously it was a zebra that was caught by them, and probably what you found is that these lions might use this along, and they just sort of come over the bank as well. And the reason why I've turned around is because I'm trying to find a track that goes into this direction and into this area. Somehow to where I think these lions are. Their tracks are everywhere, so they've gone up and down here, but where they're calling from is over the rise. And I want to check which lions these are, because there's tracks for females and males, which indicates a pride, and obviously we don't know where the we know pride is, and also the sausages move around, so the sausages do get seen up this side sometimes. So I want to just double check that it's not either of those before we kind of meander on. But it's interesting to see that sometimes even in the Mara you can utilize a little bit of kind of tracking stuff to be able to find and to look and search for the animals that you want to see. So it's Archie's nose that gave that away. Archie was smelling and saying, no, this smells like a fresh dead animal, and then we spotted that blood patch and rumen that was there. So what we're trying to do now is that, I don't know, this road might be a bit far, but there's a road that should cut from there along this kind of ridge. And so I want to get onto that road and just try and kind of see whether or not we can spot them from there. Because if we can spot them, then it's okay. Then we can go from the nearest road. But you can't just go off-roading without actually knowing where they are, and while we can hear them and we can see lots of vultures and hyenas and all kinds of other things, unfortunately, unless you spot them, we're going to be in trouble if we go off-road. So we'll try and kind of figure it out and see if we can find them. I'm sure we can. If we just can find the right road, then we're going to be good. Come on, car. There we go. Then we should be fine. I wonder if this is the zebra herd in front here that one was picked off from, because they're kind of milling about not too far. It's amazing how these animals, one gets killed and they kind of just hang around. They don't really actually move too far off. I suppose there's that kind of element of, well, it's happened, there's not much we can do about it, we might as well just carry on feeding, and you know, at least we know where the danger is coming from, rather than actually having to kind of run off and not know where anything is. So I suppose it's a fair enough call. Hello guys. Right, now we're going to try to find these lions, see if maybe they're on another kill. While we do that though, let's send you back across to Trish and her lions, and hopefully they will be a lot more active than they've been so far this morning.
And we have quite a bit of a surprise for you here, Kirst, and for the viewers. I have swapped seats with Trish and am now in the hot seat looking at these wonderful lions who we are hoping will get up soon and show us how it's done in nature. Now, my name is Jackie, and also joining me behind camera, still joining us behind camera, is the talented Malumi, Mr. James Henry. And I'm sitting here with the same couple that we were sitting with, Trishala. And I do believe that the female is the ridge-nose female from the Nkuhuma pride, who are the dominant pride of Djuma. And her partner, the good-looking blonde next to her, is an Avoca male. We don't have a proper name for him, but we're just going to call him Blondie now. Isn't he just gorgeous? Look at that mane. Now, interestingly, one thing that really attracts a female to a male is his mane. So having this mane is a very, very important feature for the male lion, because it really does get the ladies. It's a sign of strength and dominance, good genes. So ultimately the female will be very excited when she sees a male running towards her with the glorious mane blowing in the wind. You'll find that at certain ages, certain lions have got darker manes. Carol, that's a very, very good question. From what I have read, females do seek out males, and it actually also happens the same way where males do also seek out females. This has all got to do with estrogen, and it's all got to do with the scent that's in the air. So a male will pick up a scent of a female that's in estrus and will go out and find that female so that he can mate with her. And I have also heard that females tend to flirt or look out for males when they are in estrus as well and are ready to mate. So it's kind of like a back and forth between the two. But the love game of the lions is a very, very interesting one. I've been watching them just after they finish copulating. Both are exhausted. And she kind of lies on her back, which is something interesting that I heard myself when I was trying to fall pregnant with my child, is that you must lie on your back and lift your legs up. And that's exactly what she does as well, which I found very interesting. And she'll also turn around when he withdraws from her, turn around and give him a bit of a smack or a bite. And that's really because of the what do I say, the anatomy, his anatomy. He has got like these spikes on his penis. So when he withdraws, these spikes obviously don't go back. They're still quite erect. So it will cause a little bit of pain as he withdraws from her, which is why she will snarl and give him a bit of a smack. And as Trishala mentioned, they found some hair on the ground from where she'd grabbed the hair from his mane. So one often wonders, is there pleasure in there or is it just pain? But I suppose the pleasure comes when we see those beautiful cubs after 3.5 months or so. Oh, no, he's just checking. Are you waking up? Are you ready yet? She's like, no, I'm still having a snooze. I'm still resting. Just now, got a headache. Yeah. So while we are waiting with bated breath to see when they will get up, we are sending you back to Tristan in the Mara.
5. Well, hopefully they will, Jackie. Hopefully they will be able to get up and put on a display for you. Now, we've come round on this road to where I thought maybe, just maybe, we could find the lions. So far we haven't spotted them, but we have got a number of hyenas that are milling about, and there is lots and lots and lots of varying ages, sizes and descriptions, which makes me a little bit intrigued. I wonder if maybe, just maybe, this isn't a den site for one of the clans. Now, which clan that would be? It would have to be probably the Happy Zebra clan, which there's a collared individual in there, and it's not Waffles, so I think this is them. I'm not sure. I'll have to ask the researchers, but there's so many here. I can count in total 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So there's 11 of them in total that are kind of spread out across this section. So there's the rest of them. There's a very young one that's in there. You can see how bright its spots are and how light its coat is. It's a very pretty hyena, that one over there. It's not as nearly as muddy as the one to the left. That's got a dirty bottom. It's obviously been wallowing somewhere around this area. Now, that is in direct line, basically, where the hyenas are. They are and just on the other side of them is where that blood patch was. And so we're just on this side. And this is where the roaring was coming from those lions, is somewhere in this general vicinity. And so hopefully these guys probably were attracted by all of that nonsense. But there is also young ones there, which makes me think that maybe, just maybe, this is where they're kind of camping out. But I'll ask the researchers. They'll be able to tell us whether or not this is indeed an area that one of the clans spends time. And there is a collared individual there, so that should help us with being able to kind of work out who exactly this is and what they're actually doing here. But you can see lots of them, and they're starting to take it easy now. There's no real need for them to be kind of moving around. Most of them look as though they're quite full, and so they probably have already had an interaction with lions during the course of the night. And so now it's time just to have a really good rest and take it as easy as possible. Just trying to scan while we're sitting here as well, in case we can spot those lions somewhere here. I'm very intrigued to know which lions these are that are moving around. It obviously could be the boys, the one that's got half the tail, and the female that was mating with the other male. Now that female belongs to the Uino pride, so hopefully if it is them, that'll be good news to catch up with them. But I can't see any sign of lions, even though I've kind of scanned around. Lots of Thompsons, lots of Grant's gazelles in all directions, but no tawny cats as yet. They can't be far though. If we can hear them roaring as kind of loudly as we did from where we were sitting, it means that they're somewhere nearby here. And I'd imagine if they've had a good meal, maybe they're just lying kind of flat and are having a bit of a sleep. So I think let's just carry on a little bit further and just see. There's a little kind of ridge here that I can't see over, so I want to just go past this and just have a little kind of look and see. X-Rang, I agree. A Happy Zebra clan would be an excellent name for a punk rock band. And I also think it would be a good name for a steakhouse, don't you think? The Happy Zebra Clan. I think it would be a good place, and you can have you can be a member, and then you can get discounts on your steak when you go and have a meal. Seems legit. I don't know why it was ever called the Happy Zebra Clan to start with. It's probably because of the valley that they are seen in, the Happy Zebra Valley, and so exactly, and it will be a happy meal. Exactly, Kirst. See, this is why I like when Kirst directs, because she's so spot on with things. Hang on a second, is that the lions over there? Something light in coloration? No, it's a Grant's gazelle, I'm afraid. So the Grant's gazelle often resembles lions in many respects because of its kind of coloration. It's also quite tawny in color, and so it often can look a little lionish, and because it's a bit bigger than Tommy's, you can sometimes kind of confuse them. Anyway, we're going to keep looking, we're going to keep seeing what we can and try and find something, and while we do that, off you go to Jamie Patterson, who's doing, well, what we're doing and trying to find some animals.
Look, I found one. It is a terrapin, which I always feel is a naturally comic-looking animal, particularly when they are out of water. And in this case, this little terrapin is on its way, presumably from one wallow to the next. I've been chatting a little bit to, it was Lauren actually that I was talking to about this, and the fact that as soon as it rains and there are puddles in the road, you immediately need to be aware that there could be a terrapin in it, even if it was only rained an hour ago and the puddle's only been in existence for an hour. These little guys can cover such large distances at quite the speed. I mean, look at him go, or her. Just look at it go. Well, we've hit an obstruction there. Oh, no, not that way. Okay, this way. And I assume that they find the wallows by scent. I've never actually thought about that. Do they just walk in a straight line until they find the next mud wallow? Or can they smell them? Or pan. I suppose pan would be a better word. And they really don't need much space at all. They'll go into any tiny puddle. But how do they know where to go? Or because they're long-lived animals, do they actually remember which way to go? Because in this case, this one's got a rather faulty memory. Roshni says that it has engaged 4x4. Roshni, it has engaged 4x4, but it appears to be stuck. Why did you go there, you silly thing? There's no pan there. It's hiding. Not stuck, but hiding. Where's that in real life, Craig? It's there. Okay, let's see if we move forward a little bit. Maybe we can see it. I want to see if it is stuck or if it is just hiding from us. Wait, where is that? I've lost it again. Where is it? In here? That's ridiculous. That is so well hidden. There we go. Oh, it's suddenly gone from chilly to very hot with very little in between. There it is, I think. That's it there. Yeah, that's it. Wow. That is effective. Yes, Carol, as I said, I think it is smell. I think that they can smell the water and that's the way that they find it. I think they wander about with a sort of rough plan in mind, probably in a sort of roughly straight line until they smell water and they make their way towards it. I honestly don't know, and I don't know why it has never occurred to me to wonder this before, how it is that terrapins find their way to water. I guess some of the older ones might remember, but the sense of direction must be tricky when you're that small. Especially when you wake up from a very, very, very long sleep. If I fall asleep and nap for 2 hours, I don't know who I am when I wake up. Now imagine being asleep for 5 months. Must be very disorienting. Amazing how that thing's disappeared. I think it's hiding. It's not stuck. It's hiding from us. You can't see me. I'm a rock, I'm a rock, I'm a rock, I'm a rock, I'm a rock. And very effective it is too. Okay, cool. We shall move on and search for other moving rocks and other sorts of things like that. Okay, while we do that, our terrapin is doing a very good impression of pretending, or very good job of pretending to be a rock. It is matched only by the lion's impression of a log.
Indeed, it is an impression of a log out here. We're still waiting to see if these two will at least get up and walk about a little bit, but they're not doing very much. Still lying down. Every now and then she lifts her head up, and then he lifts his head up, and they just have a look about and see. But you can see that she's even dreaming. She's twitching a little bit. Her leg was just twitching just now. It's a lovely, lovely day so far because the sun is out and it's actually going to be a scorcher. It's going to be very, very hot later on during the day. And we're enjoying the warm sun on our backs because it has been quite chilly this morning. You can see the sky is blue, blue, blue. That's indicative of a day that's going to be very hot with the sun blaring down. Even the birds have now gone off their way because it's heating up a little bit, so they'll probably go towards water and drink some water. And in the background we do hear some cicadas. It's a lovely day in Africa. That sound, it's just very, 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 very prominent, and it is so indicative of Africa and being in the bush. Also being in the bush, 2 big lions resting. They were busy the whole night. I actually heard them this morning at about 3 a.m. Christina would like to know how long female lions stay in heat. That's a good question. I'm actually not 100% sure, so I'm just going to check it up for you, Christina. Christina, female lions will stay in heat round about approximately, I'd say about 10 days. So that's during that time they will be engaging in copulation. It normally lasts about 4 to 5 days. Okay. So yes, while we still stay with these 2 beautiful cats, let's go over to Tristan with a herd of elephant.
Well, hopefully the lions will wake up at some point, because poor Jackie and Trishana, they've put in a stint there this morning, and lions have not been cooperative. But we've got such a beautiful view here. We haven't moved much, even though we're looking for these lions. It's just the most beautiful view of these ellies, kind of at eye level on this burnt section, and then that big vista in the background of the escarpment that it was too good to ignore to kind of drive past it. I thought it was just a beautiful kind of image, particularly because most of the ellies have these super white bright tusks at the moment. So particularly there's one on the right hand side, so the right of the ones that Archie's got now. There's one that's got a set of tusks that is kind of shining in comparison to a lot of the others. So maybe a little bit further right, I think, Arch, that one there. So there you go. You can see they're kind of standing out, a little baby with them, but absolutely kind of beautiful. These little white tusks contrasting against the darkness of the sort of escarpment as they make their way over the ridge and over this burnt section towards us is absolutely beautiful. So it's kind of very much, doesn't look like the Mara that much there The Mara's obviously got a certain feel to it, but that just doesn't, for me, almost feels more like the Ngorongoro crater than it does the Mara. But anyway, they are very, very white tusks, and then you can see this still that sort of blanket of mist that's hanging over this top of the escarpment, and pretty much to be expected. The amount of moisture that's been around and cloud cover, mist is probably exactly what we would have thought. I love snacks. Yes, elephants love a good fruit. So just now, guys, we're talking about the marula fruits, and the marula fruit is high up on an elephant's list of things to eat. So they do love a good fruit every now and then. You'll find them going after marulas. They'll go after pretty much any fruits that they can. And funny enough, if there are oranges around, if you have oranges on a vehicle, there's been many cases where people have had to deal with elephants accosting them because of the oranges and the sort of fruit that they have. And a lot of farmers have a huge amount of issues with ellies because of their ability to get into a crop and to cause absolute panic and pandemonium as they eat a farmer's kind of livelihood. So it does happen a lot, and like I say, an ellie absolutely loves itself some good fruit, particularly if the fruit is ripe, then they are really into it. And like I say, they'll go after everything, oranges, anything they can get their kind of trunks on if they can get out into those farm communities. But out here, there's a lot of fruits as well that these guys can also eat. Isn't that beautiful? I think it's very, very pretty. It's an incredible backdrop to have the sort of mountain behind them as they're walking along. But unfortunately for us, our lions haven't roared again, which means that I'm still not 100% sure where exactly they are. We're going to obviously spend most of our morning out to bumble about and see. Now, Sweet History, you say this is a perfect view? I think so too. I quite liked it. I thought we were quite artistic, and Archie's certainly doing a wonderful job of kind of showing it to you guys. We are lucky that we've got some very good cam-ops in our ranks, and they bring you guys some incredible images. But I think it's a pretty kind of picture, and it's a little bit more unique than what we normally see. We normally kind of spend time watching these guys, and we often have like rolling grassland as a backdrop, but very seldom do we get that kind of misty mountain in the backdrop. It's also a little bit like Amboseli. You get this kind of same view with Killy in the background. Now, Tim, you say you feel like an orange now. Do you mean you as a person feel like an orange, or do you want to have an orange? Because if you feel like an orange, then I don't know quite what to say about that. There's not really much you can do about it if you feel like you are an orange and that you are round and orange in coloration and have a thick skin. But if you feel like having an orange, well, then of course you may go to the shop and go and buy yourself one. Would probably be a good exercise, and you'll be all the better off for it. And oranges are quite good for you, and lots of vitamin C, obviously, as they kind of have gained fame for, and so you'll be better off, I think, if you go and have yourself an orange rather than trying to turn yourself into an orange. That's my advice for the day. Don't be an orange, rather eat an orange. Seems a legit way. Now, sorry, Kirst, you just broke up a little bit there because I by mistake pulled my earpiece a little bit, and then my earpiece has got to be pushed in the right place, otherwise it just loses its kind of connection, and then I can't hear. Tim, okay, so Tim says he wants to eat an orange, just to clarify. All right, Tim, that's good. Well, go and get yourself one. I don't know if maybe oranges are hard to come by wherever you are in the world. I hope not. The oranges generally aren't hard to come by these days. Most places you go, you'll be able to find an orange. Eat an orange. Well, surely, yes. Do we have oranges, actually, Archie? Now that I'm thinking about it, I also maybe feel like eating an orange. This is going around. It's contagious. So normally we pack a little snack pack for our day out, because we spend most of our day kind of moving around and sort of looking for all kinds of things to show all of you guys. So maybe we've got some oranges with us. Anyway, talking about kind of snacking and things, one animal that knows how to snack very well is a hornbill, and it sounds like Jamie is with some of them.
I've got 3 snack boxes sitting on top of a dead tree, so we're finishing off our morning as we started in a way. Oli was with them earlier. I'm now finishing off our sunrise safari, I assume, with the same hornbills that he saw earlier on, roughly 3 hours ago. And what a pretty way they've arranged themselves, especially when they all look across to the right. It works so well. No, don't fly, you're not allowed to fly. You have but 60 seconds left or so. You are not allowed to fly until the end of the sunrise safari, at which point you may do exactly as you please. That's very cool. What a nice way to end. I always enjoy a good ground hornbill sighting. It's a bird that I've missed. We see often in the Masai Mara, but not nearly as frequently on Djuma. So it's good to see them once again. 1, 2, 3. Posing as pretty as you please. Okay. So what can you expect from this afternoon sunset safari? I'm going to go to Chitwa, I think, to go search for the lovely Hosanna. And, of course, the mating pair will still be around. And who knows what other things we may find along the way. All the more reason for you to join us. Right, 20 seconds. No, you horrible, horrible birds. That brings us to the end of the sunrise safari. Thank you for joining us, everyone. If only they could have held out for 5 more seconds, but they didn't.